Welcome, everyone, to the 10th episode of Friday Nightmares. I am one half of your hosting team this evening, Heather Powell, coming to you from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and I am joined by
Scott Crawford, coming to you from Swartz Creek, Michigan on this beautiful day. But holy crap, episode 10, we have made it. Our first milestone. Yay!
Well, and originally the ironic thing is Scott and I planned on recording once a month. Never were, this should be like October.
Yeah.
If we had continued with our regular scheduled program. But I think it's good that we're going to be able to cover more ground now than we would have previously if we had just done once a month. This topic for episode 10 will be survival horror, and we're going to give you a guide to surviving by the Friday Nightmares because Scott and I are for sure avid outdoor people. So you definitely want to get your notebook out and follow all the advice that Scott and I have to give. I'm sure you'll be able to survive any horror situation that you find yourself in the wilderness.
I mean, yeah, we are like the survivalists. Like that's totally us. All
you know, if you follow my Instagram and you see all the Starbucks pictures and the Kate Spade and my pictures of my dog and the food that I order out that I don't even cook for myself, you can see that I am a true survivalist. That shit goes down, I for sure will be able to handle myself. I've always thought about in a horror movie, and this isn't a slasher or anything, but I've always thought in a horror movie, would I survive? I don't know if I would, or I would be that character that you think was going to die and got seriously injured and survived, but I don't know if I'd be the final girl. Like, I think I'd be that fake out final girl, and then I get killed or something,
Yeah, I've always thought that too, and like, I already know I'm screwed if it entails me running away from the killer because my bad knee. So I'm the one that's like the wounded animal that gets left behind in the pack just to like fend off the predator.
Yeah, Scott just drops down and takes it. He's like, you know what? We'll just make it easier. Why don't we just get this done and over with?
Here, let me just get comfy and laid down for a bit.
Can you not do anything to my face? I don't want anything done to that. That'd be really great if you could take care of that. But I guess, how have you been, Scott? How are things going in Swartz Creek? Are things coming around, opening up?
Oh, yes, they are. My roommate and I ended up just going out to dinner Monday night, my first time adventuring out to the restaurant bar scene, and got ourselves sat on the outdoor patio and ate some great food. I had a big old glass of beer.
Nice.
Still felt a little strange because, yep, they do the social distancing thing, so there's like tables between us that no one can sit at, and our servers coming up to us with masks on and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's at least nice to be able to get back out and feel somewhat normal again.
Well, and support business, right? Like,
yeah.
It's really nice for that. Where our bars in this area, so I live in Waterdown, which is a part of Hamilton. It's a small community. I just don't say Waterdown because I feel like no one knows where that is anyway. But we will be opening bars by this Saturday. So Scott and I were pre-gaming before we started recording, and I will be going out both nights and drinking on a patio. And of course, I'll be getting home safely for anyone who's concerned.
And of course, an episode doesn't go by without Heather talking about drinking.
Yeah, you know what? I'm a good time, Scott. People like it, and also like note to the kind compliments that we have got about our podcast, whether people sharing that they're listening to us or just giving us positive feedback on our Facebook, even if it's the way I pronounce pasta, which I love. Thank you, Gary Hill. Gary Hill of Cinema Beef, by the way, and True Drink Minimum Commentary as well, if you want to check those out on the Legion Podcast Network. Yeah, it's been really nice that people have had that to say. So I think people like hearing about my drinking and making out and other things that I do.
And apparently my sexual adventures.
Yeah, well, Scott, maybe you should share more about that. We'll see. We'll save that for other episodes. We don't want to give up the goods too early here on Friday Nightmares.
No, not at all. I mean, you got to tease a little bit to lure them in.
That's right. Yes, because Scott is so good at that. That's his skill, actually. He was at that bar teasing all the servers and being like, "Hey, nice mask." No, Scott, not that kind of teasing. That's not the kind of teasing that you do. But this bar you were at, or a hotel, it's haunted, isn't it? Like it's kind of horror related. It's a haunted place.
Yeah, it was called the Fenton Hotel. It's about 35 minutes from my house, and it was the first time I've ever been there. We were planning on going someplace else, but the wait was over an hour, so we said, screw it, let's try to find someplace else, and found the Fenton Hotel. And yeah, the place apparently is one of the famous haunted buildings in Michigan, and was built in 1856.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's really cool architecture, and got these really cool designs on the inside, like tin etchings all over the walls, and it's really old school, and yeah, very very historical in that part of town.
That's awesome. I went out too. I had to go to Barrie, Ontario, for my American friends. Is about 2 hours north of where I live, just outside of Toronto. She had to have a medical procedure, and for some random reason we had to go to this hospital in Barrie. Talk about the most random place you could possibly have to go to.
Right.
And patios are open there. So right at 11:30, her and I were at the patio ordering alcoholic drinks, because that's how we roll. And it was really nice. And it's beautiful. There you can see mostly Canadian Shield. So you look out and it's just the trees and the mountains. Well,
nice.
Hills. We don't have mountains like it's Canada, or at least it's Ontario. Mountains are out in BC. But yeah, it was very nice. So it's nice to see that normality coming back. Borders are still closed till the end of July. I was actually just talking to my buddy who's a borders officer today. So we'll probably be a while before I'm back in the States again, or before Scott can make a visit over here. But at least we're getting back to being able to leave the house again and being in groups of more than, in Ontario now we can be in groups of up to 10. So it's getting, a little more looser and a little bit more easygoing.
Yeah, and that's always nice to see, because, it's been a long time. And I realized, because I got a comment or something on one of my Facebook pictures from when we went to Astronomicon, and it said that this was posted 18 weeks ago. I'm going, holy crap, it's been 18 weeks since we hung out last already.
Well, or how the world has changed in 18 weeks.
It's insane.
Not even from when we hung out. The world isn't even the same. And that's okay. It's okay to grow. It's okay to change. And I'm just happy that servers and other people can back to work. And a couple times this week I brought this up and people laugh at me, but I've wondered what exotic dancers are doing. Yeah. And, I know that it's a funny subject and people would be like, well, but really, what are they doing? I'm sure they're doing cam girling, or I don't know what the gentlemen are doing, but that must be really tough when you work in the entertainment hospitality industry. So hopefully things are going to start to loosen up there too, and everyone can get back to work and everyone can start making an income, because we need people to do that, right? So
exactly. And yeah, the whole stripper thing, the exotic dancers,
Scott.
But no, I was wondering about that myself. I'm I wonder how they're handling all of this right now. And apparently they're not even allowed to be open yet, because they're considered clubs. So the clubs is a different phase in Michigan, so they haven't had a chance to be open yet.
Yeah, I think the same in Canada. We're just allowing bars for patios right now until the state of emergency is lifted, hopefully at the end of June, at least in Ontario anyway, which is fair. Obviously in exotic dancing, there does involve some touching if you are looking to make more money as an exotic dancer. So obviously you would need to take precautions there. But, all joking aside, no matter what anyone's profession is, I hope that people get back to safely getting back to work and making money. It's a very stressful, difficult time for people. So anyway, I guess we should, sorry, go ahead.
I'll say, yeah, I was just going to agree with you. It is really a stressful time for a lot of people.
But luckily, we've been able to watch awesome movies. I was thinking, even with the theaters, because there's talk now about theaters opening in the States. Cineplex, which is our main theater company in Canada, has opened some in Alberta. It'll be interesting to go back into a theater. I'll be the first in line. I was out on that patio. I have no shame and no fear. Anytime something opens, Heather's going to be there. I don't. And that's me. By no stance would I say other people have to do that too, but I want to get back to supporting the theaters, man. I don't want them to go out of business. It does matter to me. I do like the experience. I don't want that to change. So the moment I can put my hot little Heather bum in a seat, the moment I'm going to be there, that's happening.
Yeah, because that's what I'm hoping for, because like when the theaters open up here, I don't know like what movies they'll be playing, just because like nothing's news come out. So I'm wondering like if they're going to bring back some old school films or what.
Well, I've heard that they're going to release one that you were really interested in.
Oh, Saint Maud. I actually did read the article on that.
Yes.
Forgot about that.
I think that's great. I keep hoping and praying that Candyman's going to come out, but I can wait till 2021. Like, really, first world problems here, people. Like, we got to wait an extra year for Candyman, not the end of the world. So,
right. Well, I think rumor has it that that's coming out in September. I think.
Is it coming in September? Okay.
Yeah, I think they pushed it to September, October.
Okay, I thought they moved it to next year.
They might have, and I missed that article, but like this was something like early on that I'd read.
Well, maybe that was Spiral that they moved.
Yeah, I think it was Spiral.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Oh, so many movies that got moved, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's can I take this one first, only because of where it was filmed?
Oh, you absolutely can.
So, Becky, which is a 2020 film, was filmed completely in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. So to give you an idea of where that is, I live in a place called Waterdown. Literally, one of the scenes here where it's a little bit of a spoiler, but they stop on the roadside and Kevin James is confronting a car, was filmed like down the street from my house.
That is
literally
awesome.
10 minutes from my house. So I was pretty excited, and I was able to pick out most of the places where it was filmed. That being said, outside of that, what a great movie. Like Home Alone on steroids with violence and great soundtrack. I loved it. I don't know what your thoughts were. Well, I know what your thoughts were, Scott. I'm pretending like I don't know, but I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this movie. It was such a blast, and I was very curious because once I seen the trailer or seen like any talk about this film about Kevin James being a villain, I was like, I could see this. Like he could probably pull this off. And yeah, he did a great job as just like someone you don't want to mess with. And then Lulu Wilson too.
I think Lulu Wilson was the highlight, to be honest with you. I think you could have put anybody, I'm sorry, in Kevin James's role, and it would have been fine. Like, I thought Kevin James was fine, don't get me wrong, but I don't think his performance made or broke it. No. I thought as a typical comedy, lighthearted family man, he did a very good job of basically becoming a Nazi, which you learn about within the first 2 minutes of the film. He has a tattoo that indicates that he is a Nazi. Right. But yeah, wow, and the character development in this and how attached you get to people. And this young lady has had quite a career so far. Lulu Wilson has been in a lot of horror films.
Really?
Well, she's been in the prequel to Ouija, so Ouija's Origins or something like that. I can't remember the title of it. She was in that. She was in Annabelle Creations, I believe, as well. So she's had a pretty good career for a young woman. So I have a feeling we'll be seeing more from her as she continues to develop, because she was great. And she fit the age too. I believe she's around 15, and I kind of got the feeling that her character was about 12. And I think that's nice when they cast characters that are close to that age. It's not so ridiculous. If you have a 20-year-old playing a 12-year-old, it looks kind of silly. Right. At least it looked like that she was close to that age. And as well as I'll be honest, I am blinded by the fact that a lot of that was filmed up on the escarpment, which is an area that is near me that is just beautiful. And it was just so cool. It is so cool to see your hometown. I grew up in Burlington, Ontario, in a movie.
That is really awesome.
And be so close to it. And then I got mad because I'm like, this shit was filming and I had no idea that it was going down. So yeah, I know we're going to be covering it on another podcast in great detail, but it's my number 3 right now in my top 10, and it will stay in my top 10. It may not stay at number 3 because, we're still at the beginning, midway through the year, but yeah, definitely a good movie.
Yeah, because I think it's number 4 for me. And
nice.
It's just one of those films where not only is it just a good movie, but it's a lot of fun too. For it's not like one of those heavy horror films for the most part. It's just you can sit down and just watch this and have a blast.
Absolutely, you're 100% right.
And yeah, the next movie that we're going to talk about, we are going to kind of bring up also in our main topic a bit, but it was on Netflix called The Decline, which was a French Quebec film, right?
Yeah, you're right. So it was a Quebec film. It was filmed in very northern Quebec too. This was not a Montreal film. If Will's listening, this was definitely something that was filmed above Quebec City. It was very, very northern with how cold it was. But yes.
Yeah, and it's all about a survivalist camp where people are going there to just like practice their survival skills. And
where Scott and I are going to go when borders open again, for
yes,
sure.
because we are hardcore like that.
And then we're going to go do parkour because
Yes.
That's also who we are.
Yes, because I am very flexible and agile. I can totally do all these things. But yeah, this movie was also like really good, had a lot of great atmosphere and was very tense. Pretty much just like a survivalist story that things just kind of go wrong at this camp. Yeah, it ends up being just like very, very tense situation. And I thought it was a really well done movie.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it. The character development in it was fabulous. The scene that they used was great. Yet again, not a tons of special effects, not a lot of bells and whistles, but man, solid. Use what you have and use it well. And the more movies we watch, the more I praise this. I was speaking with another podcaster today about The Perfect Host that we had watched some time ago, back in, I don't know, or A Perfect Host or whatever it was. It was the one with the Airbnb.
Yep.
And I was saying, that movie, low budget, very low budget, but they used their money well and they used a simple concept. And they built on that. And I love when films do that. I find that it just gives a realism to it. Like, you watch The Decline and what happens in that, you could see happening.
Oh, for sure.
That could go down. And to me, that is some of the scariest horror, because as much as ghost stories and stuff like that are fun, there's something to be said about something that could actually happen if you were in that situation. And I just think that's really cool, because as we'll get to later, we'll be talking about what we would do. Now, mind you, I think I would die in all these situations,
Yep.
except for maybe one or two. I might make it out, but definitely anything that has to do with the cold, I don't think I would survive. So... but yeah, no, really good film. I think it's number 14 or so on my list right now.
Yeah, I know it's in my top 20. I can't remember where exactly, but yeah, it's definitely one that I highly recommend, because Netflix has put out some just kind of like quietly been releasing a lot of these horror films, and like I wouldn't have known about half of them if it wasn't for you like constantly searching on Netflix and then messaging me telling me like, oh, this is on here, check this out.
And it's good because Scott and I will sometimes watch different movies and do the work for the person. So for example, I will watch a lot of the stuff on Netflix and I'll tell him like, don't bother. Because I can watch subtitle movies during the day, and those be times I'll watch one and I'll be like, yeah man, like you're not, yeah, it's okay, watch something else. Like there's other stuff out there that you can enjoy.
You mean I shouldn't watch Jessica Forever?
Well, you could if you really want to bore yourself. It's a good movie to fall asleep to. I think you might enjoy that, except for the French in the background, but it's not too loud, so maybe it will be fine for you. So the next movie we watched is The Source of Shadows. It's an anthology film, and it has 10 tales of horror from 12 visionary directors. So I guess they doubled up on some of them, because it says here 12 visionary directors and 10 tales. So I guess there was some that had double directors, which I think is interesting because the stories weren't that long.
No, there was like a couple that were like maybe 10, 15 minutes tops, but most of them were less than 10 minutes. Like I think one of them was less than 5.
Yeah, like it was pretty short. I think all the stories were decent. None of them were bad. Definitely some of them were better than others. Some of them were too artistic for me. There was a cartoon one that I did not get.
Yeah, that was probably like the low point for me, was the cartoon part, because it was just weird and I didn't get it.
Yeah, I feel like it was very abstract. There's the first one was very interesting. The second one I really liked because I thought it was funny.
Yeah, that one was hilarious.
I thought it was really clever, but there wasn't really a wraparound story.
I was gonna say that this is one of the first times I've ever seen like anthology in quite some time where it just didn't really have a wraparound. It just was just story after story after story.
Like it was almost like reading one of those scary stories to tell in the dark book.
Yeah.
They're all just separate independent stories and there's no wraparound, which sometimes is fine, right? You don't, like, to be honest, the best wraparound that I saw, that I still believe I've seen besides VHS 2, is All Hallows Eve. I really like that wraparound with her babysitting the kids, and then that I thought was really well done. Other ones I find that is sometimes really, well, I guess Nightmare Cinema was fine too, but even then I felt like that wasn't really a wraparound because all the characters were involved in it.
Right.
Like there was no really wraparound. Like it never made sense at the end either. How the one character you may have survived, may have not survived. I have no idea. So either do a wraparound well or don't do one at all. So I think that this is good that they went without it. But I would definitely recommend it. Let's see what I have it ranked right now. I have it ranked just after Decline, so I'm going to say number 15.
Yeah, I'll say I think I might have got it at like number 21. Like it was like right outside of my top 20.
Nice.
Like, it's totally worth the rental price that we paid. I highly recommend anybody checking this one out if you're into short stories or anthologies.
Yeah, and I would say besides that cartoon one, and unfortunately because we watch so many movies, I don't remember all of the ones that we've actually seen. I think the cartoon was the only one I didn't really care for. Like I don't remember anything else standing out as something I didn't like that I thought was bad.
Yeah, the others I would say were like just okay to good. But yeah, that animated story one was probably just the weakest link for me.
Yeah, maybe other people would like it and we just didn't get it. That could be possible. Oh, and I guess I should talk about the next one because I don't think you saw Body Cam. Did you?
I did. Yep.
Oh, okay, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say so. Yeah, we watched Body Cam, which stars Mary J. Blige and I believe one of her first ever acting roles.
Yeah, I don't know if she's been in other stuff before then. Oh no, she's been in other things. She's been in some other films. Can Do Bad All by Myself. A lot of African American films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is pretty much about she is a cop that I think was off the force for a bit for one reason or another and came back. Like there was an incident with a killing of an innocent person and like the body cam was shut off or something like that. And she ends up finding information on it and ends up going in a supernatural route along with the story, which ends up really tying into what is happening now.
Yeah, it was a very politically heavy film and her son's killed. That's what happened. So her son is murdered and she's away from work. And she's obviously a very well-respected police officer because when she comes back, there's a lot of celebration and we're so happy to see you back. And it really does handle police brutality and I would say corruption in the police force very well without over-sensationalizing it. Yeah. You know, I watched a Marky Wahlberg film earlier this year and it was like literally like he's a Boston cop that comes back to Boston and there's corruption and and it was so over the top sensationalized and I feel like this was more low key of what it actually looks like because the situation that occurs is heartbreaking. Like it's hard to watch.
Oh, it's very hard to watch. I was actually just going to say that. And like the only complaint I had, and it was like a minor complaint really, was the ending that I seen coming like a mile away.
Yeah, I agree. Like
if you've seen most like cop dramas, you've seen this pretty much storyline like at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a pretty predictable movie. Like I have it in my 30s, which yet again, as of today, I've watched 76 movies. So that's Scott. He's like, Miller, you would show off tonight, huh? So like when you're in the 30s and out of 77 movies, that's not, obviously I'm not, super high on it, but it's not a shitty movie. So I would definitely say you do need to like political films. So if you are somebody who is not, it's politically burnt out right now, and you just can't take another conversation about this right now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's okay to be burnt out. It's obviously not okay to pretend that it doesn't happen, but it's okay to be burnt out. So I wouldn't suggest that, like this film for you right now. But if you are, a political person, you enjoy some supernatural stuff, this is a really cool film.
Yeah, and I actually just looked it up and it's my number 30 on my list.
Oh, that's pretty good too. So that's awesome. We're both kind of in the same area.
Yep, and I've seen, 74, because I'm 2 behind you.
No, I'm up to 77 now, so you're 3 behind me.
Oh, well, yeah.
Look at this. And that's the furthest they made it in their Friday Nightmares episodes.
Yep, I can't stand you being ahead of me. I'm done. That's it.
I know. It's all these foreign films I watch when Scott can't watch them.
It is true.
But one film we did watch together.
Oh, this one. Oh my God.
On Shudder. Oh man, it's called The Confessional. And they tried to make it like a Blair Witch Project, like, well, maybe it really happened. Maybe this is really somebody's like film that they made, that they submitted, and mysterious stuff happened with it. So I'll give them credit for creativity. I think there was good intentions with this film.
Yeah, I will also say that the way that it was shot, all pretty much in a confession booth, the entire film, like just from all different people being in different confession booths, very clever idea. Like it's literally dialogue heavy. There's nothing else, no true action. It's all just dialogue.
A lot of talking. It's basically watching multiple monologues for 84 minutes.
Yeah, and like I have a confession to make. I have sinned because I have watched this movie. No.
Yeah, that's fair. And I forgive you because I watched it with you too. Some of the acting in this was over the top.
Yeah.
Some things that you saw coming, you knew what was going to happen, and there was some awkward reveals in it. Like, there was some actors that weren't too bad, but I felt like this was a teenage drama club that got together and chose their most dramatic actors to kind of put them in a film.
That is the best way to describe this. Holy crap. Because because there's some cringy scenes, but at the same time, there's, some decent acting as well, like for some up-and-comers.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't recommend it. Like, honestly,
No.
If someone said to me, should I watch this? I would say, unless you really have a love for monologues, like a real love for monologues, then yes. But I don't think your average horror fan will enjoy this, and definitely not your, slasher fan, or like even psychological. You can see the twist coming. Like, it's not like it's not even a twist. Like,
Right.
It's just like, I don't know. Props for trying something new. Hopefully everyone got their little bit of start in this, but it was just a little too over the top dramatic for me.
Oh, I completely agree. It was just meh. Like I say, I still like it for how they filmed the, like, pretty much being in one scene, like one location. But other than that, I can't recommend it. Like, and it's on Shudder streaming, so it's like I don't even recommend you wasting your time on it.
No, like, there's other things you can watch.
Yeah, exactly. So many better things.
Like, I'm trying to find it on my list, and I think it's really low. No, actually, it made it above the turning, so I guess that says something.
Not much, but it does say something.
I must have not hated it too much in the situation, but it's still up in, I think, the 70s or the 60s. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan.
Well, I mean, we gotta at least give credit to that movie, just because it gave us our new nicknames on our chat page.
Oh yeah, so I shared a screenshot of Scott and I's conversation with Scott's consent, just so we're clear. I took that screenshot, I sent it to him, and I said, "This is funny. Do you mind if I post it?" And he said, "Yes." I would never ever done that without his consent. But there's a guy in there named Chad. So Scott called himself Major Chad, and someone refers to themselves as an unreliable narrator, and that's my nickname.
Yep.
Our Chad, it's unreliable narrator. It's great. Like, there was some lines in it that were funny, and I think that's why it's a little bit higher. If I remember now, there was some funny one-liners, and clever stuff that was said that was very political, but good.
Right.
But not good enough for me to recommend it to anybody.
No. I didn't hate myself for watching it, but it was just it was just there.
Yeah, it was just dramatic.
But yeah, we can move on to one that was definitely a step up, and that was Extracurricular. Which is about, and I can say this without spoiling it because it's in the synopsis and all that stuff and in the trailer. But it's about a group of high school kids, I believe, or college students that like to hunt and kill people. They do this as a group and try to do different things, like each time they kill somebody, and they try to spread it out, but they decide to do one more because it's coming up on Halloween, and wouldn't it be cool if we did this on Halloween? And yeah, it's just a story about these killer teens, young adults that have a lot of drama between themselves, as well as like trying to plan this out. And like they go like Ocean's 11 style planning with this shit too, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, it is interesting. And the whole concept as to why they're doing it, like, it's really well acted, really well filmed, very dark, a very dark film. And it will have an ending that will leave you angry.
Yeah.
So, don't expect a happy ending at the end of this. It's definitely a darker one. And it's not even like one of those like The Faculty or urban legends or I Know What You Did Last Summer where it has like, or Scream even, where it has young people that are killers. Like, this is dark. This is probably more along the lines of Funny Games or Hard Candy, where it's just really, really dark, and you have to go into that knowing that and being prepared for a ride. A ride of uncomfortableness, but some great kills, some really good action, good dialogue, good character development, good use of teenage relationships. A lot of praise for this one. And Scott, did we watch this on Shudder or Prime? I can't even remember now.
This one was on Prime.
Was it on Prime? Okay, so it's available on Prime Canada and then Prime United States as well.
Yeah, and this one, yeah, there is definitely some scenes that are very heavy, and kind of hard to watch, especially towards the end. But I agree with everything you said there with the acting and the performance, the filmmaking. It's all really well done. A lot of people will probably judge this by its cover because its cover does not seem to fit the movie all that well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where you just gotta ignore the cover and dive into it because this is a really good film for me, and I think this one is in my top 20.
Yeah, it's for me too. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed that they took a darker look and that they didn't make it another teenage goofy movie, which I feel like Confessional was. Like, Confessional was trying to be serious, but ended up being so gossipy and drama that you were like vomiting by the end of it. This one was just hard hitting, and 91-minute runtime, which is a perfect runtime for this film. It did not need to be longer. It was actually a film that got it just right.
Yep, and it's my number 19.
Nice, excellent. I guess it's my turn now, right? So I'm going to talk about The Occupant, which I don't think you've seen.
I have not. This is one that I was waiting on your thoughts, and I think I decided against it after I heard you.
Yeah, it's definitely a slow burn. It's called Hogar in Spanish, and the gist of it is there's a executive that loses his job, and because of that, he's forced out of his apartment that he lives in. So he lives in a very nice, swanky apartment with his family, and he becomes obsessed with the family that moves in. And you start off at the beginning of the movie feeling very sorry for this guy and feeling empathy for him, to not feeling too much empathy for him as it goes on. So it's very slow. It's 103 minutes long, so it's just almost under 2 hours. And it's a heavy watch. There is no happy ending. It is a depressing ending, but it is a well-acted, well-delivered, well-made film that speaks about the decline from the elite class to the lower class and what someone will do to get back up to that class.
Interesting.
So if you really enjoy psychological horror and class stuff, and I'm not talking about the platform, so this isn't something that's gory and something that's going to really this is could happen in real life.
Okay.
This could happen. Somebody could manage to pull off these things that this dude pulls off. And that is probably the most scary thing. And the lead actor is an asshole. So props to this lead actor. I'll see if I can get his name. I can't even pronounce it, so I'm not going to butcher it. He is really good as a protagonist that turns into an antagonist. Does an excellent job.
Interesting.
So any of my horror lover friends out there who enjoy slow burns, that enjoy Spanish films, and enjoy social commentary films, this is for you. If none of those things wet your whistle, skip over it. There'll be other things you can watch.
Yep, I'll say that's the good thing about this year is there's always a ton of different options.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next one we can talk about, we watched this last Sunday, and that was a found footage film called Captured.
Ugh. I mean,
that's pretty much Heather and I's response for the first 2/3 of this film. It was just so blah. For an hour and 20 minutes, I kept checking the time because it felt like, oh, we're almost over. oh no, we're only 20 minutes in. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was okay, but then when that third act hit, like, that's what raised it up for me. Like, that third act was really awesome. I wish they would have shortened the first part of the movie and extended that third act a bit more, just to give a little bit more and build up the suspense more, because it all kind of just was thrown at you with not a lot of time to develop. But yeah, I thought this one was decent. Like, I'd say it was worth like the $2.99 rental that it was.
Yeah, I think we watched it for free though, because it was free on
Yeah,
Prime.
that was the one that was free.
I think I would have been mad if I had to pay for this. The more I sit with it, the more I like it less.
Really?
Yeah. When I say I don't like it, I definitely think the acting was decent. I think the concept was good. And I think the third act is good. But it just dragged so much for me that I have a hard time recommending this movie to people, because I don't think it's a great found footage film.
No, it definitely isn't.
I don't think that it's a great slasher, if that's even what you could call it. I think that it's an interesting concept and a great twist. That if you're very observant, you can see that twist coming. I did not, neither did Scott.
Nope.
So I think the twist delivery is the best thing I can say about this film.
Yeah.
But did I think that it was super great for me? No. But if you enjoy found footage, all found footage films, if you're a found footage film fan in general, you might enjoy this. Just not my jam.
Yep. And I'm right there with you. Like, it was like a 6.5 out of 10 for me. Like, it was like above average, but it wasn't anything like, oh, I'm going to recommend this to everybody. But
it has dropped to a 5 out of 10 for me.
Has it really?
Yeah. I really just did not enjoy it. But that being said, other people might. And I don't shit on people's choices anyway. Right. You know, if I met someone who was French who was like, oh, no, you just didn't get Jessica Forever, I'd be like, okay, maybe you're French and you got it better than I do, and that's fair. But I didn't think it did anything really well except for the twist.
Yeah, I'll say that.
And that's not enough for me to deserve anything more than a 5.
That's fair. Yeah, because I did like some of the characters, and yeah, but like it was just, yeah, it was, like I say, if it was rental for $2.99, I wouldn't have been mad, but anything higher than that, yeah.
Scott would be like, "Give me my money.
I want my money fucking back. Refund."
It's about right. Sorry. My right to a refund.
I'll pull a major Chad.
Yeah, pull a major Chad. So then the next one was The Dinner Party, which was like Ready or Not, but not Ready or Not. Like, I don't even know. First of all, it's an uncorked film. So I got to say, for an uncorked film, one of the better films I've ever seen come out of their collection.
I completely agree. And I was talking to you about this when we were watching it, and I was like, you know, this is starting to become its own little subgenre, these dinner party themed horror films.
Yes, absolutely. And good acting, a good plot, a lot of character development, like 2 hours running time, and most of like 45 minutes of that is character development.
Yep.
And probably not needed. Some good, decent nudity that even myself as a straight female was like, man, girl, you're looking good. Acting was very decent, but I just found it uninteresting to me. It seemed to follow a trope that I don't really care for.
Yep.
And that's probably why. But I would say some people would enjoy this. Like, I don't know. I think this reminded me of Would You Rather, only no, I think it just reminded me of Would You Rather, only a slightly different version of it.
Yep, without playing the game, Would You Rather, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. I don't know. Would you say that's fair?
It's pretty close. That's why I was saying like that dinner theme thing, because that one I would throw in the dinner theme subgenre as well, like with Ready or Not. But yeah, because of that subgenre that's in there that you're not a fan of, I freaking loved it. It's my type of movie. It is a bit slow. They could have probably cut like 15 minutes, 20 minutes out of it, but like I really did enjoy the characters and the whole high society rich people acting the way they do. And finding out like what they are doing during this dinner party. It's like, well, this is disturbing. But yeah, I had a blast with this one. Like, it's not like, oh my god, this is amazing, it's in my top 10, but it was like, I think it might be my number 18.
Nice. Definitely is nowhere. This is where we're polar opposites. I think this is in the 40s for me.
Yeah, I looked at your list and
Yeah.
it's way lower.
Yeah. So, and that's fine. It's yet again, I think for Uncork though, I got to say, like, standing ovation Uncork for, adding this film to your roster, because shit, it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty high quality for Uncork. So, hopefully we see more of that to come.
Yeah, I hope so too, because a little peek behind the scenes, we tried to watch another Uncorked film a couple weeks back called Dead by Dawn. We stopped it like
so
10 minutes in.
And to give you an idea of why we stopped it, okay, so within the opening scene, this girl gets beat up by her boyfriend, and it's just really uncomfortable and poorly acted. And then she goes to a Halloween party dressed as, like, Red Riding Hood or something like that.
Yeah.
And she gets picked up by this clown who's in an Uber, and he's talking to her, and at one point he simulates that he's rubbing his penis. And I was just like, I can't do this, Scott. Like, this is just, like, it was horribly filmed, horrible dialogue. I'm like, I can't sit through an hour and a half of this shit. Like,
no.
I can't do it. And for those of you who did, rock on. I just wasn't in the mood for it. I'm like, this is just I've sat through too many low budget movies that I don't feel the need to sit through this one.
No, because we were both just talking and like, oh boy, that dialogue in that beginning with everything, it's just like, oh, this is painful to watch. All right, we can just stop.
Well, and even him, like, simulating he was getting aroused from the conversation. The conversation wasn't even, like, it was just creepy. And it wasn't even creepy in a way that was like, ooh, that's creepy. It was like, yet again, it looked like it was going to turn into a porn parody at any moment. And that's fine. If I want to go do that, I'll just watch Pornhub. Like, right. I don't need to, or any other site. Like, I don't need to watch an Uncorked film for that. So, yeah, just
avoid that one.
Just good job Uncorked with Dinner Party. It was a much better film.
Oh, it absolutely was. Yeah, that one is definitely one I will rewatch, like, at some point maybe, if I ever do rewatches again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next one is one that I watched, and it was on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob, or Joe Bob Briggs. And it was they were releasing it 2 weeks or a week ahead of schedule before it was supposed to hit on demand. So it was like kind of like a sneak peek at the film. But that is the horror anthology Scare Package, which I believe we talked about on our second or third episode, like in our trailer section.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember. We probably did. I just don't remember.
Yeah. Like, I remember that you were like, okay, this looks like this looks like good jokes that I'm going to get a kick out of. And I'm going, yep, I'm hoping the comedy lands with me. And yeah, watching it, I would say it's about half and half for me. Like, the first half of this film was really strong. Like, the wraparound is entertaining as hell. The second story is just fucking hilarious. I was just in tears laughing because it was so stupid and over the top. And like the third one was funny, but a little less. And then after that, it just got progressively worse with each story. And pretty much each episode or each story deals with a trope from horror. And that's like their focus.
Oh, okay. So they use different tropes, and that's what they build their stories on. Okay.
Yeah. A couple of them, I don't know what the tropes were that they were
well,
aiming
that's a bad sign.
Yeah. But a couple of them, I'm just like especially that, I think it was that second story. Oh my God, I was in tears laughing. Granted, I also took an edible that day, so I was, it helped me.
That helps, right?
Oh, it was, that one right there was totally worth watching the movie for, just that, like, small story. It was hilarious. But yeah, all in all, I'd say my taste in humor is very weird and odd, like,
and wrong
apparently, that compared to Heather's.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's hard to really pinpoint what I would like and what I won't like when it comes to comedy. Like,
oh my God, impossible.
Yeah, even I can't.
Okay, this is the same dude that likes a musical. That is probably like the weirdest movie I've ever sat through. But then enjoyed Little Monsters and didn't think it was hilarious. I don't understand how we can watch these movies and his comedy taste. I have no idea what he will find funny. I don't even guess anymore. I say, if I watch this horror comedy, I found it funny, I don't know if you'll like it. He'll be like, do you think I'll like it? And I'm like, I got no fucking clue, dude. Yeah, it's going to depend what mood you're in that day. Like, what you had for breakfast, where the sun is in the sky.
Yeah, like all the stars got to align.
Like, I have no idea what you'll find fun, because my sense of humor is pretty consistent.
Yeah, and like I think I know yours pretty well.
Yeah, and I laugh at everything. Like, it doesn't take much to make me laugh, to be honest. As most people know listening to, I laugh at my own jokes too all the time.
Right.
Like I'm doing right now. But anyway.
And I think one thing with me is I watch a lot of these by myself, so like
I watch them by myself too, and I still laugh.
Yeah, but you crack yourself up, so it's a bit different. I don't crack myself up.
That's true. That's true. Mickey, poor Mickey. Like sometimes I laugh so loud, and he does look at me like, "What are you doing?" Mickey's my dog, by the way, in case people are wondering who Mickey is. I have a rescue dog that's 5 years old named Mick Mac. I also call him Mickey. Anyway, but yeah, I have no idea what you find funny. I don't know how we got on this tangent, but I have no idea what Scott finds funny.
It's because of Scare Package and just
I haven't seen Scare Package either, so I have no idea. Probably I'll watch it and find it funny.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, knowing what I know, you'll probably enjoy this more than I did.
And he'll be like, "Oh, it was really crappy," and I'll be like, "Oh man, it was great." He'll be like, "No, it wasn't funny at all."
Hey, I did say the first half was pretty good.
I need to go watch Cannibal the Musical again because that's the only thing I find funny. And Gremlins.
Gremlins 2, funny. Gremlins 1, a little more tired.
All right, Gremlins 2. That's right.
And then I guess, the next one is one that I seen today. And it's called The Bone Box, and it's on Shudder. Meh.
Meh. That's actually new writing on the show. Meh.
It's just, yeah. It was generic ghost story. Had a cool idea because it was about a dude that's struggling for cash and ends up getting himself in trouble with a loan shark, and he needs to make money, so he starts robbing graves. And then the items that he takes from these graves, the ghosts are haunting him.
That sounds funny.
I was like, it's kind of a cool concept, but it was an hour and 35 minutes, and I was bored the whole time and just didn't care. Like, it was shot really well, acted really well, but the story just was not there for me.
Aww.
So if you're a big haunted house ghost fan type person, I recommend it, but this definitely was not my film for sure.
Well, Scott, I just want to give you an update. I'm up to 78 movies, actually.
Oh, look at you.
Just in case you were wondering.
I think I lied. I think I might be at 76.
No, you're not.
No.
I actually have no idea what Scott's number.
Okay, 75.
Okay, so you're 3 behind. Okay, good. Whew, okay, good.
Gotta keep those numbers up.
I know, right? No matter what crap I have to watch. So I watched 2 movies today, and I actually don't have one on here, so Scott's going to get to be surprised. I watched To Your Last Death, which is an anime film, and or an animation. I shouldn't say animation film. It's, I listened to the fresh cuts on this, and they said that the animation wasn't the best, and they're right. It kind of looks like stick figures. Like,
yeah, it does. It's very
up and across the screen.
Yeah, very stuttery.
Yeah, but it was a decent little watch. Like, I enjoy cartoons. I do. I'm a big Transformers fan. I have the box set of Beast Wars. I enjoy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joes. I like adult cartoons. I enjoy Rick and Morty. I think that show's really funny, actually. I enjoy Bob's Burgers. I enjoy South Park. I'm a big fan of all that stuff. So animation is good for me, and I have watched anime, but the real popular anime stuff, I haven't got any into the deeper or better probably anime. I would say if you enjoy animation, this is a great film. If you really don't like animation, I think the animation is so poor that it will annoy you. Or if you're a very specific animation that you like, you may not like it. But it was entertaining. 91 minutes. The voiceover by Ray Wise was awesome. The cartoon kills in this were great. The way the story developed was really, really cool. And yeah, I would say it's worth a rental if you like animation. You have to like animation, and if you don't, you're not going to enjoy this.
Yeah, and because I was telling you, I've watched about half of this movie in chunks because it was on that Horror Hound Film Festival.
Yes.
And it was on a Friday night, and I was just doing stuff around the house, so I was missing scenes and stuff like that. But I had it on in the background, and I need to sit down and watch the rest of it because I did like what I did like what I seen, and like it seems like a film that I would enjoy like watching from beginning to end. So it's
I think you would like it. It's not a comedy, so I feel confident in stating that you'll probably like it.
Yeah.
The other film I watched today was Warning, Do Not Play. It's a South Korean film, and it's a ghost story. It's very similar to an urban legend like The Ring.
Oh, okay.
Now, I am not a South Korean film connoisseur. I've seen a handful this year. It's better than the other one I watched, 0 megahertz or something like that, or
0.0 megahertz.
0 megahertz. This one I would say is probably better. Basically, it's about a struggling director that finds a found footage of a film, and this film is not supposed to be shown, and blah blah blah. Like it does kind of go off the realm a little bit and not make tons of sense, but I thought it was a decent watch, and I thought for a ghost story it was better than The Turning. And it was better than the remake of The Grudge 2020. So when the bar is that low, it's not hard to hopscotch over it. So if you enjoy any South Korean ghost story, you will enjoy this. But if you have a very high taste in South Korean films, perhaps you will not. I found it entertaining. I thought the acting was good. It's an 85-minute watch. It's pretty quick. It is subtitled, so you need to be paying attention. And it is on Shudder. So it's on Shudder Canada, and I'm going to assume Shudder United States, but you never quite know. Oh, it is?
Yeah, because it's one of those that I was... it was the one, I think we were talking about watching that for our second film on Sunday last week, but we ended up going with the dinner party.
Yeah, we should have just watched this. Well, no, you probably will like the dinner party more. I liked this more, the dinner party, but yeah.
But yeah, this is one I definitely want to check out. Once again, just add it to the international films that I need to watch this year that I just haven't got around to yet.
Poor Scott, like freaking Christmas to New Year's Day, he's going to be watching international films.
Right, because it's not like I have a lot of time to watch movies like that.
Oh, my
goodness. All been during work lately.
Well, yeah, and someone's been socializing and getting out and enjoying the nice weather, right?
Yeah, say now that summer is here and we can kind of do stuff, I can't help but like visit people.
I can't help but clean my house and do other things besides watch movies. Preach it, my friend. Preach it, my friend. So, I guess
that was... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll say, but yeah, that was the end of our 2020 list, and we were going to jump into our older films.
So, I'm really glad Scott explained that for all of us. Can you imagine? I'm just kidding, Scott.
That's
Poor Scott. He's dropping his head down and he's disheartened and stuff, and Slender Man's walking in the background. So we do this weekly trivia night, and one day Scott's roommate walked by and people called him Slender Man because he's so tall. So now all I can think of is that Scott lives with Slender Man. But anyway, I watched The Void, and I watched this partly because it's a Canadian film, and also that it was recommended from Exploding Heads, and just do whatever they say. So, just trying to win that date with Brendan Orlick, I got tough competition now with Scott.
Yeah, I'll say I'm gonna get that date.
And the worst part is I don't know who Brandon would prefer, to be honest with you.
I mean, anyway, we're both pretty sexy. It's a toss up.
You got that beard, and I don't know. I don't have any facial hair. So anyway, it started off really strong, and I will start off right now. This is a good movie. Okay, this is an excellent film. I think if you enjoy Lovecraft, you're really going to like this movie, and I like 2/3 of this movie. It got really Lovecrafty and out there at the end, and that just lost it for me. It does not mean it's a bad movie. Just means that it is confirmed that I do not like Lovecraft.
Yep. Yeah, because I was telling you, like, if you didn't like this one, then that's most Lovecraft stuff you won't like. It won't connect with you.
And I know it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be like a nightmare that you can't wake up from, and I get those things. It's just not the Heather language. It just doesn't connect with me. Doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It just is not my jam. But major respect for how it was filmed, how it was acted. It flowed well. It was very interesting. I just I just could not buy into it. So I guess take that as it is.
Yeah, because this one was this will tell you the complete difference for us. The Void was my number one film of 2016.
Yeah, I would give it respect. It would probably be number 20 for me. Like,
Yeah,
if
I
I
can see
think,
that.
like, I would give it respect because it's a good movie. It's just, I don't like this Lovecraft stuff.
No, I was saying it's just not your jam.
Like, it just, and I try so hard. It's like Saw. I hear people praising Saw, and I'm like, why don't you like those movies, Heather? And I don't hate them. Like, I would watch Saw over The Void. Yeah, I would.
All right, this podcast is over. That's it.
Well, at least we made it to episode 10. But yeah, it's not bad. It's not a bad film. As I said, just not for me. Now, did you want to go next, or did you want me to just keep going?
Yeah, I'll go next. I ended up watching one called Eden Lake from 2008. Not knowing this had Michael Fassbender in it, so that was a nice surprise.
Cool.
But yeah, it's about a couple that go away on vacation to this remote beach on a lake, and while they're out there relaxing, there's these punk teenagers that show up and are just being obnoxious and rude and staring at his wife while she's in her bikini, and their dog is like unruly and running over and barking in their faces and taking a shit like right next to them and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like.
And then he goes and has a talk with them, and they make fun of him, and they eventually just leave. And then I think they go into town for something, and he sees their bikes, and he's still pissed off with the way they acted towards him. So he like starts messing with them, and then it just goes back and forth between these like the gang of kids and these two. And well, eventually the gang of kids just start doing some very mean stuff, and it just ends up being like a vicious hunt through the woods.
That sounds scary.
Yeah, like you don't want to mess with these kids. They were like probably like late teenagers, but they were like they almost acted like they were in a gang.
They're in a Northern Ontario gang. That's what happens when you go to Northern Ontario.
Yeah.
Better be careful when I'm up in there in Wasaga Beach in a couple of weeks. I don't want to be messing with no gangs.
Yeah, this one I thought was all around well acted. Some very uncomfortable scenes because of the violence.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was a really good, tense film. Like, I highly recommend this one.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds cool. I've seen it, I think a couple of times on Netflix or Prime or somewhere, one of the streaming services, and I just haven't got around to watching it, so I'm glad to hear that it's decent.
Yeah, I think you would really like it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound Lovecraft, so I probably would.
Exactly.
Another one that I watched was a 2018 film called #FollowMe, which yet again talks about the evils of social media. Basically, it follows 3 YouTube stars on a trip, and of course, they end up getting stalked. And, for a found footage film, this was actually really good. Like, I really enjoyed how they did this found footage film. It's a British film. And it was really, really enjoyable. I don't want to give too much away, but you almost feel like you're watching somebody's vacation.
Oh, really?
Like they did such a good job, and the actors did such a good job of being candid and in the moment and kind of just going with the flow that I really felt like I was just watching somebody's vacation. And that's really cool because of what happens in it. The 3 young ladies in it are very pretty. There's also some good-looking gentlemen that show up in it as well. And it gets dark, and when it gets dark, it gets very dark. And they also try to do this thing where maybe it's real, maybe it really happened, which I always find a little like overdone and stupid now. Like, it was cool when the Blair Witch did it in 1999. It's not so cool in 2020, but you know what? That's fine. But yeah, I definitely would say, I can't remember where I watched it. I want to say Prime, but I don't really fully remember. I think it must have been Prime. Because it doesn't seem like it was on Shudder. So yeah, I would recommend checking it out.
Yeah, might be one I'll have to check out at some point because that seems like something I would be interested in.
Yeah. Good looking ladies, good looking guys. A trip through LA. I think you'll love it.
Oh, hell yeah. That's all I need.
That's all Scott wants. Just no comedies.
Yeah, no comedies. Nope. Oh. Nope. I'm all serious.
That's right. He is.
We have the next movie I watched was from 1997, and one of those films that I've always heard of, knew a lot about, and just never watched, and that was Cube.
Sorry.
What was that all about?
Well, it's just kind of a classic horror film.
Well, that's why we're doing these first-time watches, fill in these gaps.
Remember when you told me I haven't watched a lot of classic horror films?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. And I put my foot in my mouth.
But what did you think of Cube? Because my girlfriend fell asleep when we watched this movie. She passed out.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah, she really did. She didn't like it. I thought it was great. I thought it was cool, but she did not dig it.
Yeah, I thought this was a really cool film. It reminded me of pretty much like every room being a Saw trap, one way or another.
Yeah, it's kind of like the inspiration for Saw.
Oh yeah, I can guarantee it was inspired by, or Saw was inspired by it. I do like the character development between some of these characters, especially the guy that I thought was like the gentleman hero type who ends up becoming like this freaking asshole bad guy by the end. Oh my god, I did not expect that at all.
It's great character development, right? Like to change a character's, motive and process. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, like they did a really good job with this, and like very interesting story. Very cool kills. Definitely Resident Evil, the movie, copied the laser slicing scene from Cube. Oh, definitely.
Yep.
And I'm going to be for surely checking out Part 2 and Cube Zero like at some point.
I haven't seen those, so you'll have to let me know.
Oh, I definitely will. But yeah, I recommend this if you haven't seen it before, but most people have, and I'm just behind.
That's okay. I might skip over one that I was going to talk about something else instead, and I think I will.
I have a feeling I know what that is.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump right to Girls with Balls because I got totally razzed about this on our Facebook page and I added it. So it is a Netflix film, just so we're clear. It is no other film to my friends who teased me about this. It came out in 1999 and it's a horror comedy, and oh my god, I laughed so hard throughout this movie. It's basically based on a volleyball team that gets stranded in the woods and they get hunted. It's like The Hunt, only just completely craziness. And they have this coach, and oh man, there's some lines in it that are like, there was a line that was so funny that I rewound it so I could watch it multiple times because I thought it was just the funniest thing ever, which means Scots will hate it. I think that is stupid and be like, this movie's so dumb. And meanwhile, I was like slapping my leg, laughing out loud. I thought it was just so funny. It's gonna definitely be a movie that if I'm like really sad, I'm gonna go watch Girls with Balls because it's just so hilarious. And it came out in 1999. If you enjoy slapstick humor with some really funny jokes that connect to other horror movies and just a lot of ridiculous blood and guts, it's the movie for you. If you don't like slapstick humor, you don't like silly comedy, or your name is Scott Crawford, it's probably not the movie for you.
Well, I already told you I'm planning on watching this because I am very...
Oh, no. You're going to tell me how bad it is.
Well, if I say it's bad, it'll be probably because I just didn't find it funny myself, and that's nothing wrong with that.
It's like how nothing's wrong with The Void.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just something wrong with me.
Exactly.
Oh, there's so much wrong with me. But anyway.
That's why we work good as a team.
That's why we're broken and we bring each other together as broken pieces.
Exactly. And we feed off of each other.
That's right. We feed off of each other's brokenness. My dog just stared at me right now and judged me like, yeah, it's probably true.
Mine's doing the same right now, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another one I will talk about is another one being the horror movie fan that I am ashamed to admit I had not seen, and that is Dario Argento's 1985 Phenomenon.
Oh, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, this was definitely a different style for an Argento film because Argento's really known for his giallos and stuff like that. And this one stars a very young Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, wow. I didn't know she was in that. Cool.
Yeah, she's the main character. And Donald Pleasance is also in it.
Oh, nice.
And, like, basically it's about Jennifer Connelly going to this, like, all-girls school. And she has this affinity for, like, controlling insects. And there's, like, this weird killer that's out there that's, like, just killing people that are out late at night. And, like, she ends up, like, somehow telekinetically connecting with him and seeing these kills like in her dreams and stuff like that, and he sees her like even though she's sleeping, but he sees her like there on the kill scene.
Oh, wow.
And so like it's just like the killer's trying to stalk her and she's trying to like figure out who it is and everything. But it's so freaking bizarre. It's very Italian.
Very Italian. Yes, very nice.
And Argento's love for stabbing women with glass in the neck, like, and broken through or throwing them through like broken windows and stuff. I don't know why, but he loves doing that in a lot of his films. And this one, there's a scene like that too, where a woman gets decapitated by a broken shard of glass window.
Well, you know what? If it works, it works.
Yeah, I'll say like it's a formula that apparently worked at that time. But yeah, this is a very interesting movie. I enjoyed it. Wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but I'm glad I at least checked it out. And this one was on Shudder, and it's very bizarre.
Awesome.
Like I can't stress how bizarre this film is.
You're like, bizarre. Keyword here, bizarre.
Very, very bizarre.
How bizarre, how bizarre. Like that horrible 90s song, you know what I'm talking about?
Dun, 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 dun,
Ooh,
dun.
baby, you're making me crazy. Yeah, that's right. We also have, it's also High School Musical here, apparently, on fucking Friday Nightmares as well.
I mean, I can
episode
belt out
10.
I mean, we could make this a musical for episode 10. We can just start singing everything.
Yeah, can you imagine? I would dig that, but I can't sing. At least you have a voice. We'd have no listeners by the end of it. So
it's true for me, especially.
You can sing. That's more me. That's the problem. So, Little Monsters, 2019, which Mr. Scott Crawford doesn't like because he's a monster. I don't understand how he. All the gloves are coming off now. I get why Exploding Heads and 22 Shots have all been working together for years, and they like yell at each other because he just gets so frustrated with each other's days. We're only at episode 10, and Scott and I are like, you know what? You're wrong. But Little Monsters is balls to the wall hilarious. It basically is based upon a school teacher and this shitty uncle who takes the kids to this petting zoo, for lack of better words, and they get attacked by zombies, and OMG, it is one of the funniest movies I've ever sat through. Like I don't know how they did the casting call, but I just picture it being bring the cutest child that you can possibly find to this audition, and they just hired the cutest kids ever that you just want to like hug and that are just like melt my heart. Like these children might as well just reached into my chest and pulled out my beating heart because they had it. And I will tell you right now, I was so invested in what happened to these kids. I'm like, I really hope this is a comedy because I cannot handle otherwise. And great movie, so much fun. Unless you're Scott Crawford and you have no soul or heart, I really recommend watching Little Monsters, and I think you will find it at least a little comical, and don't take it too seriously. I think anyone that walks into this movie that thinks it's going to be a serious film or like they're really looking for a hardcore zombie film, you're going to be disappointed. But if you're looking for something that just has some cute kids, some little funny lines, and kind of like a little bit of a romantic comedy with some horror sprinkled in it, it's great.
Yeah, I will say there are some really funny scenes in this. Like, I didn't think the whole movie was funny, but there is stuff like almost everything with Josh Gad's character. Like, I laughed my ass off.
Is that because you felt like you were him?
No, I think it was just because I
feel like you're him.
That I would be that much of an asshole to the kids?
To this movie, you are.
Yeah, to this movie, I'm an asshole, maybe, but no, like I think it's with him. I didn't expect him to go that route because I'm used to him from as Olaf from Frozen, and then just to see him in this film, just like swearing up a storm and like throwing kids out of the way and like just being a complete dick. Just like I was in tears by just like the complete character shift that I thought of him from.
It's like how Scott would handle it. He'd be sacrificing the children. He'd be like, take them!
No, I would not.
I'm making Scott sound like he's a monster. He's actually not a monster, just so we're clear. Like, I don't want anyone thinking that Scott's going to go sacrifice kids. He just doesn't have good taste in movies. Just kidding, Scott.
Wow, you are just pushing us to break up tonight, aren't you?
I know.
The end of the show.
And you know what? There was a lot of Taylor Swift in that movie, so he'll be singing soon. We are never, ever getting back together. You go talk to you. Anyway, I won't sing anymore. It's painful for everyone listening.
Amazing.
But I did think it was funny, but I do think it's a little romantic comedy-ish, and I think that's where they kind of went wrong with the horror piece of it. Because I think if you do walk into this film, all teasing aside, if Scott was expecting like a true horror comedy like Shaun of the Dead, which has some romance in it, but it's not really the focus of it, you're going to be disappointed. Like, it's not like that. It is really kind of a romantic comedy with like some zombies, and I dug it. I thought it was super cute. And honestly, those children, my goodness, so cute. And it almost make me wish I had kids, but I want those kids.
I'll say, because that is the part that actually surprised me that you liked it so much, was because I know you're not a big fan of romantic comedies.
I'm not, but those kids, man. I used to be a camp counselor, and I did want children. Unfortunately, it just wasn't in the plans for me. But oh man, kids are awesome. Like, they're so funny, especially these kids and how cute they are, and the games that she plays with them. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Like, I've done that before with kids, and like, you're trying to make the situation okay. And oh my gosh, I totally. That is also going to be a movie that if I'm sad one day, Girls with Balls, Little Monsters. That's going to be my remedy.
Yeah, but I was saying those are like they're good. Like, well, at least I know Little Monsters is, even though it's a horror comedy, it's lighthearted. So that,
yeah, I would say Girls with Balls is pretty lighthearted too. Like, you can't take that one seriously. It's a little more mature theme, but it's definitely not. It's not a serious film. Like, I think if you took it seriously, then you're not going to enjoy it.
Right.
But I don't know how anyone could. It's not a serious movie.
I mean, especially with that title.
Yeah, right. Like, it sounds like something you find on Pornhub. So.
Right, exactly. I mean, I'm watching that right now. No.
Nice. Well, you've been pretty calm for that. Let me tell you. Good poker face.
Yeah, I'll say it's that tantric that I've been working on.
Oh shit! Wow, it's impressive. Good job. See, look at you. Now you give on me for drinking. You're talking about sexual experiences. My God, Gary predicted it. Thank you, Gary Hill. You know the way. You know
episode 14.
Happening. Who knows what's going to be happening?
And I just have one more movie that I can talk about on this list, and that is Lovely Molly from 2012. I found this one on Shudder, and this one actually, it's kind of funny because I watched it, and then like shortly after I'd watched it, I think it was like episode 106 of Exploding Heads came out, and they covered Lovely Molly.
107.
Was it 107?
Yeah, I'm a true fan.
You are. I lose track of the numbers.
I'm going to get that date with Mr. Olenek.
Oh, we'll see.
Orlick.
You don't have that beard.
I know.
It's going to be hard.
Sure.
Hard work. But
no. Fuck.
Yeah, this is pretty much like a horror film that very, very heavy horror film.
Yeah, I've heard. I heard their review and it sounded really heavy.
Yeah, because it's pretty much just about drug addiction and what happened, like abuse and drug addiction. But it is a well-made film. I hate using the word really enjoyed it, but as a movie.
Well, yeah, it's okay to use that term.
But yeah, the main actress in this, I don't know her name, but she did such a phenomenal job. And like, man, this one I'm just watching it and just like it was almost too much for me. And,
really?
Yeah, but I've also had family members that.
You've experienced it firsthand, so I think that's also hard for you as well. True, you're right.
Yeah, so it definitely hit home with me. But yeah, this is very tough watch, but also like a really well done movie that a lot of people I recommend checking out. It's very graphic though, so be warned about that.
Yeah, I think that's good that you're putting that out there. And Scott, I forgot about your personal connection to that. And yeah, kudos to you for watching that, because that's a hard thing to sit through.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was watching.
You didn't listen to their review first?
Well, I watched this before their episode even came out.
Okay.
And I just seen it on Shudder, and I was like, well, this is one I haven't seen. Click. Didn't look at the synopsis or anything like that.
Yep.
And wow. I was expecting just to kind of chillax that night, and well, got hit hard.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm glad that you got through it, but you do recommend it, so that's good.
Yeah. I'll say I definitely don't regret watching it. That's for sure. It's definitely a good movie.
Excellent. So there's two movies that I watched. One was from 1976, Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh yes.
It's 108 minutes, and talk about a really good 70s horror film.
Really? That good, huh?
I really enjoyed the plot. There was some twist in this. There's not a lot of murders. It's more of a mystery. man, is it good. So for those, I have always heard about Alice, Sweet Alice, and I think the raincoat and the mask are pretty well known in the horror community anyway. I don't know how well it's known pop culture.
For sure, yeah.
But it is definitely an awesome film. And it says, the tagline is, if you survive this night, nothing will scare you again. And I think for 1976, the fact that they used children, because we got to remember, children in horror, we've really exploited that.
Oh, yeah.
With children dying in horror. We look at the Pet Sematary, original and remake. We look at The Good Son. We look at Heredity. We have done we have The Omen, Insidious, Sinister. We've had, experiences where kids have died in horror films, like in modern day Poltergeist. Like lots of films where kids get hurt or whatever, and something happens to them, or they pass away in it, or they're evil or whatnot. And I think that Alice, Sweet Alice was ahead of its time doing that. So I think if we go back to 1976 and we were to watch this movie, we have a very, very different experience. But I definitely recommend it if you are a horror fan. It's like how I feel about the Blair Witch Projects. There's certain movies in our field that you just need to watch.
Yeah.
If you're going to say that you're a hardcore horror fan, there's certain things that are on that watch list, and I think Alice, Sweet Alice is on there.
Yeah, and this is one of those that I've missed throughout the years, so I am going to be watching this one as well.
I recommend that you watch it by the end of this year. I think that it's...
it'll probably be by the end of this week.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
By the time we get to our next episode.
By the end of tonight. Actually, he's going to watch it while we record.
I'm watching it right now. How did you know?
He switched from Girls with Balls, and now he's watching Alice, Sweet Alice. And then the second one I watched was April Fool's Day.
Oh, this movie.
Yeah, and I remember the box cover of this when I was a young Heather, going to the video store and sneaking off into the horror section, and my parents yelling at me to come back, and me trying to hide between the shelves so they couldn't see me. And always thinking it was really cool because of her braid being in a noose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
so iconic of a cover.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really smart cover. I wonder, Dave C., does it pass the cover art test? Add your response in Friday Nightmares. Yes. So I loved it. I can see why this got a lot of hate at the time.
Yeah, especially for that ending.
Yeah, but it's clever. Yeah. You watch that, I feel like this was a concept that if it was released now, especially since we've had Cabin in the Woods and other things like that, people would love it.
Well, they tried a remake with it. I want to say about 10 years ago. Scout Taylor Compton was the main girl.
Okay.
And yeah, it was not good. Not good.
I just mean if they had taken this cast, because Amy Steele's in it.
Yeah.
And I think if they had just released that concept now and had better actors, it would have been not from the 1986 one, from whatever remake that they tried to do. I think it would have been very good, but at the same time, this was playing into the slashers of the 80s. It just seems like it came out at the perfect time as well in that sense. I don't know. It could have been perfect in the 80s if people just knew what they were walking into, and I think it's perfect for 2020. I loved it. I thought it was great. I would rewatch it. I thought it was fun. I love the ending. I know I'm giving spoilers here, but this is a 1986 movie. I'm assuming you've seen April Fool's, or at least heard about it, or because I heard all about the drama of it prior to watching it.
Right. Yeah, and I love this movie. It's it's up there in my probably top 15 slashers.
Yeah, it's great.
I really enjoy this movie. I just love the characters. The characters alone save it for me. Or not save it, but carry the film even more.
And even though it's not technically a real slasher,
right.
It's still really fun. It's still a really good movie. So anyway, I recommend checking it out. I was glad that I went old school and checked out those bad boys. So
yeah, I'm happy to hear you enjoyed that one. I didn't even know you watched that one, so that's a nice surprise.
I know. I just got to keep you on your toes. I got to make sure I keep this relationship fresh, Scott.
I think you do that pretty well.
You're no problem here, Heather. We're good. We're good. Stop laughing at your own jokes.
Nah, everyone loves you laughing at your own jokes. You got to keep that.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I guess I am kind of funny. It's true. You know what? You talked me into it. You talked me into it, Scott. So our next section since I'm the host, is going to be horror podcasts that we've been listening to. And I'm going to tell you about mine, Scott, and you and I are both going to feel like bad friends.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I follow The Padded Room on Podcast Addict. And there was a podcast on there that I was very interested in, and it was Dead Picks on Netflix. And I was like, oh, and it's these short little podcast windows, so it's usually about 30 minutes, and they talk about movies that they've seen on Netflix. So Cargo's one of them, Platform's one of them, and the people that host this are very good friends at Horror for Dummies. It is done by Tim Davis and Daniel Luffy.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Huh?
We are bad friends.
All right, I need to have a chat with my my lover from Australia about this, because how did he not tell me about this?
I don't know, and we have a group chat and everything too, and we're recording with them this weekend.
Yeah, what? Oh, I guess it's just gonna be 2 dates and that's it now, Tim. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, but you know what? You have enough dates coming up. Between you and, like, I don't know, Scott's getting
Brandon and got Tim and got so many.
Well, Brandon hasn't said yes yet, so let's not
he
get
said
too...
yes. He said yes.
Remember, consent, Scott. Consent. So anyway, Dead Pick on Netflix. So this is so Luffy and Tim Davis do this, and they do a great job. So basically what it is they do a spoiler-free review, and then they break into spoilers. And listening to their platform, or the review of the platform, wow. Like, I listen to their regular show all the time, and they go deep with their movie reviews. But this one, because they're so hyper-focused on the one movie, they kind of tie in the alternate meanings of it. So when they get to the spoiler section, they talk about different theories. So they talk about different theories behind the platform, and it's just a really nice, simple, and sweet podcast. If you're looking for something that's under 30 minutes and that gives a quick spoiler, if you want to hear some sexy Australian accents and you love the horror for dummy gentlemen like we do, this is a fabulous podcast to listen to. And you can find it under The Padded Room. So I think they're part of that podcast network. I will include the link to it. But yeah, please check it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to do that now.
I know, especially by Sunday, because they're going to eventually listen to this and realize that we didn't know that was them.
Right. That's why I'll hold off on releasing this episode until we record, at least on Sunday.
So you can be like, I knew that you, and then Tim's going to listen to this and be like, no, you didn't, lies. You were liars.
Son of a bitch.
Right?
Yeah, then the one that I'm going to talk about, well, these guys have been around for quite some time. They are celebrating 12 years, I think going on 13 years now, of doing this podcast, and that is Outside the Cinema with Bill and Chris. These guys don't necessarily just cover horror, but they usually have 2 movies that are usually cult classics, or maybe not so cult classics, but like they will pretty much cover any genre. I mean, hell, they even did someone from their Patreon picked 2 movies, and they ended up doing Spice World.
I remember watching that movie.
That doesn't surprise me.
Film. Yeah, I remember watching it.
But yeah, these guys are just entertaining to listen to. I've been listening to them, probably since I started listening to podcasts like 6 years ago or so.
Since you were in the womb.
Yes, since I was in the podcasting womb. And this is actually how I got introduced to Court and Matt Psyop from Cinema Psyop, because they did a slasher roundtable episode with Bill and Chris on Outside the Cinema, and I heard them, so I was like, ooh, I gotta find these Cinema Psyop guys. These guys are hilarious. And it's kind of just come full circle. But yeah, like Bill is also a getting up there as a well-known director, because he directed the cult film documentary Survival of the Film Freaks last year, or couple years ago, and it got like a ton of awards and stuff like that. And I guess he was in the middle of doing another documentary, but then COVID happened, so everything's been kind of put on hiatus. But yeah, I highly recommend this show. They are very well knowledge. Like, they know so much about film, and Chris goes on these random tangents that are just hilarious to listen to.
Like, is he as funny as me?
No, well, he doesn't laugh at his own jokes, so
he doesn't cue the audience when they should laugh.
Yeah, exactly. But no, if like he'll almost always relate something to Star Wars, which is hilarious. Like and you usually hear Bill in the background going.
Oh my gosh, I get that. It's like Gremlins.
I don't know who you're talking about. It's definitely not me because I don't talk about Gremlins.
Never, ever. He has a shelf devoted to Gremlins.
But who doesn't?
That's right. Who doesn't in the community?
Exactly. I mean, I know you do. You're just hiding it. You're ashamed.
That's true. I keep it in like my secret room.
Your secret shame room.
Where I have the signed copy of The Void because I loved it so much, and the signed poster.
Same with Jessica Forever. She loves
and my special edition Black Christmas 2019 release.
Yes, exactly. But anyways, yes. Back to Outside the Cinema. Yeah, you can find these guys pretty much everywhere podcasts can be found. Like they've been around 12 years, going on 13. Like they do a weekly show, and I don't think like they've ever missed a week.
Gosh, it's like a marriage. I can't imagine podcasting with you for 13 years.
Oh, you would love it.
I just like imagine we'd be making the same jokes, like just older.
We'd still be bringing up Jessica Forever.
We'd still be bringing up movies. Still be talking about Gremlins. I'd still be trying to convince you that Scream 3 is an Oscar-worthy film. It'd be great.
Eventually, I'll get so senile that I'll just start agreeing with you.
Yeah, Heather was great. Best movie ever. Yes, Heather, the ending is so unique. Yes, it makes so much sense. Yes.
Oh, too much fun.
Too much is true, though. It sums up our commentary that we did. Anyway.
Right.
Well, I guess that's it. Oh, man, here we are. We got to move into our main topic. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with our main topic of survival horror.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of her.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little history all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was.
How
did
you watch this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
So welcome to our main topic, which is survival horror, where Scott Crawford and myself, as super duper survivalists, will go over exactly what you need to do to survive every single horror situation that you could be in. Scott's definitely the best at it.
Yeah, I feel we need to have like have the listeners sign a digital contract, making it so we're not liable for anything that may happen to them.
Bottom line is, you listen to us, and then you message Kenneth at Kill the Cast and ask what you should actually do.
And Kenneth will be like, ignore everything they taught you and let me teach you.
Well, I have some survival skills. I've been campaigning and I have done some stuff. I don't know if you've...
I've done some.
Okay, so
And I have survivalist friends, so I know some things.
We joke, but still, don't listen to Scott and I as any kind of experts. We'd be the scared people just trying to make it through.
Right.
So the survival genre can be split into many different categories. You can be lost in an environment, try and survive the elements, vacation, travel, horror, for example. In this episode, we're just going to look at element horror and how characters survive in the elements. So why do we love survival horror part 1? So this was an article that was found in the Dark Side of Psychology by Elio Martineau. He's a PhD individual, or has his PhD. I don't know if I said PhD individual. So what is survival horror? Survival horror is not a new art form. It ranges from cult classics such as The Alien to The Thing, which birthed an entire generation of survival horror, to modern-day franchises such as Resident Evil, which is also a video game, isn't it?
Yeah, that's and technically, I believe, I'm sure Jerry Herring will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Resident Evil would be considered like the first of the survival horror in video games.
Oh, cool. Nice. You mean not Super Mario Brothers? That wasn't considered the first? No. Sonic the Hedgehog?
Maybe the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, the underwater level, because that was horror on its own.
Right. Or so was Echo the Dolphin. God, what an annoying game to play. Survival horror moves beyond a simple, cheap jump scare. It immerses the audience in the world of terror, disgust, and fear, and a psychological feedback loop that keeps one clawing back for more. I love that. Gosh, that sounds so sexy. A very good quote that I found in this article is, "It is our nature to be afraid of the unknown, but also to be curious and to explore, to use a flashlight, to delve into those dark corners, but God forbid that flashlight should fail." I think that's really, really a cool quote that I pulled out of this article. And it really kind of sums up going out into that wilderness. We're okay as long as everything's working for us, but the moment shit hits the fan, we realize how little we are in this world.
Yeah, that quote sums that up perfectly.
And, you know, a good survival horror messes with your mind. You want to desperately run away and phone your mom. On the other hand, you want to face your fears and peer into those dark, shadowy corners, and even if your flashlight flickers on and off. I thought that was a really, really cool thing. And that really, I don't know, it really speaks to me when I think about people that choose to be in these situations or get stuck in these situations. They kind of want to run away and ask, like, obviously everyone wants to survive, but also everyone wants to be in charge.
Yeah.
And be the hero. You know, I feel like that's a big part of survival horror too, is who is going to be the hero, who's going to be the ones to figure everything out. So, you know, it goes into the psychology, often referred to the shadow, that was conjured by Carl Jung and popularized by Pearson recently, to gaze behind our own personas, the masks that we don for everyday life, and go into the depths of our psyche. What do we pull from to help us survive these dark, mysterious situations where we question our mortality and our own struggle? So this is followed up with the idea of fight or flight. It's a neuroscience of survival horror. Now, this article looks at gaming, but I thought that it was really, really representative of what horror film or survival horror tries to simulate. So one of the things that survival horror films will try to simulate is that feeling of helplessness. As mentioned earlier, players in survival horror, so we could say characters or players, are often faced with terrifying, inescapable circumstances. So I actually think, even though we didn't use this movie, the one where the gentleman gets stuck in between the cliffs and he breaks his leg or something like that.
I was actually
127 hours or something like that.
Yep, I was actually trying to find a copy of that movie to watch for this episode, but I could not find one in time.
Like, talk about like that's an example of helplessness right there. Like, you're alive, so you could still live, but you're almost wondering if it's just better to die. Like, what a shitty place to be.
Yeah, that would be like a horrific situation, because what can you do in that situation when your arm is stuck between boulders? You can't really call for help or barely feed yourself at that point.
Like, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. And it's based on a true story, so the person did survive, which I find even more overwhelmingly impressive. So
yeah.
Helplessness is a truly powerful feeling. Studies have shown that animals that are faced with a situation where they're helpless develop strong feelings of fear and anxiety. This is also true in the case of humans. You remember this feeling from your last visit to the dentist? That's really a really good example of, like, you're in the dentist chair, the stuff's in your mouth, you can't really do anything about it. Or if you're going in for surgery, or if you're on a roller coaster and, like, you get up to the top and you're like, oh man, I want to do this. And you don't really have a choice.
Yeah. Like I've gotten to that point many times on roller coasters where it's like, okay, I'm here. Oh shit! I want off, and you're just stuck.
Yeah, and you can't get off, and that's it. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's really true is when we're watching these survivalist horror element films, because you really do kind of put yourself like, oh my God, there's helplessness here. You know, we're going to talk about a couple of films where people are really helpless, and they there's nothing they can do. So context and environment. So naturally, our environment plays a large role in the perception of fear and potentially startling responses. So obviously, if we're comfortable with our environment, we can generally predict how we are going to react.
Yeah.
But if we are in a new environment, it is more difficult for us to do that. So for example, if you go whitewater rafting, there is a way that you navigate whitewater rafting, which is why you have a guide that goes with you. But if you choose to do it by yourself with no prior experience, you're basically learning how to walk for the first time, only in a kayak. So it's a very important thing that we look at the context of environments, because unless someone is super familiar with something and had that chance to do trial and error to learn, being put into that situation will cause people to react in ways that don't make sense. And I think that's sometimes when we watch horror movies, we sit on our high horse on our nice warm couch, eating our popcorn, cuddling with our dog, drinking. I think I've just described myself. But and I go, I do that. I would do that. I would do something else. I would do this. I would do that. It's very easy to armchair quarterback what steps you would take when you're not in that situation. So I think that that's a really important piece to look at here. And there's going to be a movie that really plays into this. So I'm not sure. Have you seen Frozen 2010?
Oh, I love this movie.
Not the Disney film. The Adam Green film.
Oh, crap. Yes. Yeah, I love that movie.
Scott was about to break into Let It Go. And then I was going to have to let him go. Wah, 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 wah. Anyway.
Those are the jokes.
The jokes. Now we're just stealing from other podcasts. So childhood friends. So there's 3 childhood friends. There's 2 dudes and his girlfriend who go away to a ski resort. And it's a small ski resort, and they're doing the hills and stuff like that. And then they go up one last time. They convince the attendant to let them go up the hill one last time. And unfortunately, when they're halfway up the hill, the attendants switch out, not knowing that there are 3 skiers up still on the mountain. And shock and surprise, the resort closes and they leave them there stranded. I can't remember the amount of feet up in the air. I believe it was close to at least 40 or 30 feet.
I think it was, might have even been more than that.
Was it more than that? Because it was high enough that you couldn't really jump without risking injury.
Yeah, like, shit, I think there was, like, points where if you jumped, like, you were risking death even though obviously that, death happened in a different way in the film, but...
Yes. So we're going to dissect this movie and what Scott and I would do. So I'm going to state it now. There will be spoilers to this film. If you have not seen Frozen 2010 by Adam Green, if you've seen the Disney cartoon, that's fine, and you have no intention of watching this film, then that's fine. But we will be discussing what the characters do and then talk about what we would do. So, in that second, Scott, where all the lights go off, and I love how the lights go off because it goes off, and they're sitting there talking, like you're kind of facing them as they're chatting away, and you see the lights go off as a viewer. Yep. And then as they're sitting there, lights, and the lights go off at them. At first, they're like, oh, they just made a mistake. They're yelling, whatever. What would you be thinking?
I would just be like, okay, what the hell's going on? I'd literally be looking around trying to yell, going, hey, we're still up here. We're still up here. Like, I think that would be like my first natural reaction.
Yeah, I don't think I would panic at first. I think my panic would just be initial, like, hello, well, someone's going to leave the resort. They're going to leave the ski lodge. They're going to hear me, and they're going to know that we're up here. I don't know if I would panic right away. I have warm clothes on. I have, enough stuff on that I would think that, oh, this is, they're going to realize it, and they're going to turn the lights back on in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and I think with me, I would panic because I'm already kind of terrified of heights. So having it stop and I'm just kind of floating in nothingness, I think I would already be going, all right, I don't like this. Let's move it. Come on.
So you would your blood would be pumping. So yeah. You're already heading into panic mode. And I think this is an important thing to remember when watching this film. And Kill the Cast, our boss, Jerry Herring, and our 2 supervisors, Jay and Kenneth, watched this film and went over it. And Kenneth really critiqued it. And I messaged Kenneth later to debate with him on some points.
Nice.
Because and Kenneth is somebody who I have, all 3 gentlemen I have the world of respect for. I think they're all very intelligent. But Kenneth is a survivalist. And he knows how to survive in various situations. not everyone is as smart as him. Most people are not, especially depending where you live, have not been exposed to very cold temperatures. You and I live somewhere where it can get very cold. And we know what it looks like when that happens. And when you get very cold, you don't think straight.
Yeah.
You begin to panic. So I think when we look at how these characters chose to react, it's not far off to say that people that are weekend skiers would not react this way if this situation is to happen. So basically, they realize no one is coming back. They debate jumping, right? So the one character debates that he's going to jump from the ski chair lift to the ground. They're debating about how long it is for him to jump, and he decides to jump. Well, when he jumps, he, of course, compound fractures on both legs, not just one leg, both legs, and obviously is in a intense amount of pain. So now the panic button for the two people that are on the chairlift have shot up because it's his best friend and his girlfriend.
Yep.
And he's freaking out because now he's going into shock. And at one point he does, because he talks about how it doesn't hurt anymore and he's feeling warm, which are all bad signs.
Yeah.
He's no longer shivering. So would you jump, Scott?
I would debate it, but I think my fear of heights might keep me rooted in my seat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to remember, did he straight up jump out, or did he climb, hang off?
I believe he hung off.
Okay.
I believe, but it still didn't give him enough, because when the gentlemen, when our bosses were talking at Kill the Cast, they talked about hanging off of each other to the point where they lower each other down to get as many feet down as you can.
Which that makes sense,
right?
If you have the strength to hold on.
Yeah, if you have the strength to hold on. So we're all assuming that these guys have really good upper body strength. So that could be possible. And also that it's cold. Now, mind you, this is earlier in the situation, so frostbite and hypothermia haven't kicked in yet. Your body would still be making enough heat to support itself. So if there is a time to do that, you should probably be doing that right then and there. So anyway, long story short, wolves show up and they eat one of the members, the member that fell on the ground. Yeah. So the next day, the girl realizes that she has severe frostbite, and the other gentleman that's up with her eventually scales the chairlift lines, which would be pretty hard to do because those things are razor sharp.
Yeah.
So that seems to me like it makes sense. I don't know if I would have the body strength to do that and be able to get there. And then he drops to the ground. He does hurt himself. I think he fractures something, or he has to sit down on the snowboard to take it down, or the ski or something that he uses to get down on. He sits. And the wolves chase him, which, as much as the wolves are supposed to be scary, I thought they were cute as hell in this.
They were very adorable.
So eventually she gets off the chairlift because the weight breaks because it's all the way out in the elements. Oh, I forgot about another crucial scene where the snowplow driver, driven by Kane Harder, comes up, and they're trying to get attention and they're throwing poles and stuff down. What would you have done to get his attention?
I think I probably would have done the same thing. Maybe I would have tried taking my shoe and throwing it, because it'd be a little more dense and easier to throw. But yeah, probably would all depend on what you had on you at that time. But whatever they had on them, I would be taking my boot or my shoe. As much as that would suck, because then my foot would probably get frostbite.
Kenneth would argue not to do that. I don't think, because you would get frostbite.
Right.
So I don't know what the best situation is in that situation, and what you could do in that situation to kind of solve that problem. I think that's I don't know if I would have done anything different, to be honest with you. I like to put myself in that spot, and yet again, I'm not in the moment. I'd probably be screaming as loud as I can, and who knows? That snowplow is pretty loud.
Yeah.
And, it's quite possible that he could not see. But the fact that he doesn't even look up once or look back, I thought was kind of odd. But for the sake of the plot of the movie, it has to continue. So eventually she's down on the ground. She gets down off a ski. She passes the wolves that are feeding on the other individual's corpse. And the one wolf sits there, though, like a little prince. Do you remember that scene? I was like, oh my God, they probably couldn't get that wolf to do anything else. Or I actually thought they weren't wolves. I thought they were just
huskies, maybe.
Wolves. Yeah, huskies, but I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time to remember. And I just remember that one sitting there, and it was just I'm a good boy. I'm going to sit here. And she eventually makes it to the street and gets picked up by a car, and hears her boyfriend's voice in her head saying, "You're going to be okay, baby. You're going to be okay." So people would have known that they were missing. So my only thing with this is she had a dog, and they would have told somebody that they were going skiing. They had jobs to go to. So I think it's interesting that they were up there into the next day, because when did people wonder? Because I believe they were going on a Sunday, because they were saying, okay, now the resort's closed for the week. So the next day would have been the Monday, and there would have been a Monday. So it would have been Sunday night to Monday to Tuesday. So when have technically somebody wondered where they were?
Possibly, yeah. Like I know here in the U.S., like you can't report someone missing for 48 hours.
But wouldn't you have gone though, if you were their friend or their coworker and they were like, they didn't show up for work today, you wouldn't be like calling their house and wondering? I guess if it's one day, but I just think that like if my coworker, when I was going into work, lives alone, and there was one day that she didn't come in, and I was giving her to a certain time, and if she didn't show up, I was calling her sister. I had her sister's number, and I was calling her house to see where she was, because I'm always more cautious of women that live alone. Being a female that's lived alone, I think that it's important to check on other females.
Right.
So, I just, that was a part that I didn't fully buy into. That someone, like, they would have known they went skiing, and then there would have been no response, and then they would have sued the ski resort for sure because of the situation. But I can't think of, when I look at all the steps they made, I would like to think I would do things differently. I probably wouldn't have thrown any boots. I would have definitely kept my mitts. I would have definitely not slept with my one hand on the bar that didn't have protection.
Yeah.
I probably would have lowered each other down as far as I could have, but I don't know, in that moment, in the panic and in the cold and in the hypothermia kicking in, if I would have done anything differently. And I think that's the great part about this movie. You can feel the cold when you watch this movie. Like, you watch that and you see how cold they are, and you're like, shit, that's cold.
Yeah.
And scary.
And we, like you were saying, like people like north, like us, and further north, know what it's like when it gets to some extreme colds. I mean, obviously, they're not like as extreme as we've not experienced the most extreme colds, but you can, in your head, know how cold that is out there, like, and what they're going through.
Absolutely, right? And I think the movie is smart for that. I think it's really smart that it plays on something that could happen. They are small, little, itty-bitty ski resorts. We have them out here. I don't know if you have them in Michigan.
Yep.
But we have them out here that are only operable on the weekends, and that could happen. Like, it could happen. I don't think they'd be left there overnight, because the one ski resort that I'm thinking that's like this is also by a hotel. So, because I've stayed at it, so across the street is a ski resort, and then the hotel's across the street, and they have outdoor activities in the evening. So it's very likely that if you were outside and people were trapped on that ski hill, you could hear them, because these hills aren't always super big if it's a small little ski resort like that too. We're not looking at Mont Blanc, right? Like, we're not looking at Elecantville. We're not looking at huge ski hills here. We're looking at things that are a little bit smaller. But I think it was a really smart survival horror topic, and really smart to use the cold, and to use the hypothermia, and to use the height, and to use the fear of animals to kind of tie into this whole survivalist horror thing. So basically, if Scott and I were in this situation, we would definitely break our legs somehow.
Yep.
And we may survive. I'm hoping that the wolves get Scott first.
They would, because I'm the slower one.
And but Scott, I would go on living in your honor.
I'm sure you would. You'd be sitting on a patio somewhere, having a drink, thinking of me.
Every Christmas, I would force myself to watch Gremlins back to back. And I would say, this one's for you, Scott. This one's for you.
My heart.
Then I would get a gluten-free craft beer and drink it. So, next movie is Black Mountain Side, 2014. So this one is also based in the cold, and it's more research focused. So it's basically a group of researchers are up in the Arctic North is what they call it, but I believe it's like North Alberta, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what we ended up discussing when I talked about it.
Yeah, I think it's northern Alberta, and they find artifacts that are buried deep, and weird stuff starts to happen, so much so that the indigenous workers leave. Now, when indigenous people piece, shit's real, right?
And you should be piecing as well.
Like, when they go, that should be your tip to get the heck out of Dodge, right? So yeah. I like how I said heck. Like, I swear every other episode, but I decided not to say the hell out of Dodge. Anyway. So a very good movie, though, that talks about there's this little, like, they're a little isolated community, and they have food flowing in and water flowing in. And I still don't quite get where they get the electricity on. They must have generators. I think that's how it is.
I think they had like a bunch of generators out there.
Right. And the isolation. Now, mind you, it is a creature feature, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But oh my goodness, that whole idea of being in this small community, a helicopter ride away from civilization. So it's not like people are going to drive up there and get to you.
Right.
And you're reliant on people to bring you food and bring you water for you to survive. Talk about isolation, talk about reliance on others, and back to our points that we made earlier, talk about helplessness. Like, what would you do if, like, people start going crazy and people are hearing things and people are trying to kill themselves? Like, what would you do if you were a character in this situation?
I don't even know exactly what I would do with this situation. I would probably end up trying to keep more to myself and just kind of stay out of line of sight of everybody, and just if they're going to start bickering amongst themselves, let them do it to themselves. And like, unless like, there was actually danger of someone that I was friends with in that situation, then I'd step in. But yeah, for the most part, I think I would just be trying to keep to myself, keep away, trying to just do logistical look at, okay, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to ration food?
See, I'm opposite. I would not be keeping away from other people. I would be trying to unify people and say, look, we're in a situation here where we have this much food and this much water. We need to come up with a plan to rationalize this. We need to maybe take the snow and see if we can filter that properly, because these guys are smart people. They're scientists and stuff like that. They should know how to create a basic water filter system with the equipment they have there. I would say maybe we should look into hunting. They probably have guns or some kind of ammunition there. I maybe look at killing rabbits or wolves or whatever is possible for me to kill. There is a bear trap that we found out about later on. So obviously there's wildlife up there, even though I know the wildlife does clear out. But I'd be looking at not like getting away from people and avoiding the conflict. I'd be looking at probably trying to take that leadership role of, look, we don't know how long we're going to be in this situation for, and we need to try to figure out how we are going to be self-sustaining, if possible, until spring or until it gets warmer and we can get out of here. So I think that is where the long-term planning would come in for me. But that being said, I don't know if we would survive. Humans are very self-absorbed. And as we've learned with COVID-19, with grocery stores stocked of food, we still had people hoarding. And we still had people buying, too much food that they didn't need. I'm pretty sure there's people that still don't need to go to the grocery store because they still have like a year's supply of steak in their freezer. And that's for a flu. Not to play down COVID-19, but that's for a flu for people that live in rural communities.
Right.
That's not even in the middle of nowhere with the fear and the isolation. And then this whole weird creature shit and people are hurting themselves. Like, what a great concept for a horror movie, because this horror movie doesn't just include the creature. It includes the whole social isolation, the cold, and that fear of what are you going to do next? How. And it's funny because they're all running around and stuff. I'd be trying to conserve my energy and eat as little as I could.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is a very interesting thing, but that goes to show that when people panic, particularly men, they all want to be involved. They all need to feel something to do. They all need to be the leader. They all need to solve the problems. And that's been a socialized thing. That's not me just trying to make a blanket sexist comment. That is a socialized thing. So it would have been interesting if it was mixed with men and women, or if it had just been women, how that whole role assignment would have played out. Because you had a doctor, you had scientists, you had people that were experts on equipment. Like, you had people of all different skill sets there that technically, if they all worked together, they could have survived.
Oh, for sure. But, humans are very selfish and selfless in that manner that, unfortunately, that's how things play out sometimes.
But what a great movie for that purpose, right?
Oh, it so is.
And then, spoiler, it is ironic at the end of the movie that the one surviving member who kind of beats the creature, I guess you could say, gets away from the camp and gets caught in a bear trap. That is referenced earlier in the film. And I can't think of anything more painful than being left in a bear trap to die.
Oh, that would be horrible, especially in those elements too.
Like, I don't know what would get you first, a hypothermia, the loss of blood, a mixture of both. So that is a good horror movie. It's not a happy ending. It's an isolation film that really plays on that fear of isolation.
So does.
So the next one we're going to talk about is Decline, which is a 2020 film. So we will be giving spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, maybe skip through this. So it's based on a survivalist camp in the middle of a Quebec winter, and Quebec winters can get even colder than the winters that Scott and I experienced. Like we're talking like negative 30s, okay? Like this is like negative 30 degrees Celsius for Canadians, and I don't know what that would be for Americans.
I'll look that up while you're talking.
Or colder. Or colder.
Yeah.
So it's not that cold right now. I think this is late winter, early spring, just because of the amount of clothing that they're wearing outside. But they go up to this survivalist camp, and they all believe that the world is going to implode. And in all fairness, they give good reasons. They refer to the economy and the stock market and all the stuff that's happening in the world, and that they want to be prepared. They also talk about immigration as well, which is such a thing for Quebec culture. That is a very Canadiana thing that's in this. So we have to remember Quebec is a province in Canada where French is the first spoken language. And the original settlers of Quebec were from France. And then the rest of Canada was settled from the English. I'm just using that as a very simplistic explanation. And the French lived their life a very different way than the English did. First of all, they were Catholic. English were Protestant. They even had their land and their farms cut in a different way. So they would do long strips of land while Englishes would do squares of land. So what happened when the English came over is that they basically colonized the French. So the French colonized the indigenous and the English colonized everybody. So there is this, ongoing frustration in the province of Quebec with being this French nation within an English nation. And they don't necessarily recognize Canada Day. They did want to separate from Canada. During the 90s, there was a referendum where they tried to separate from Canada. We do have a specific political party that keeps Quebec political policies in mind and fights for the application of Quebec. When you go to Quebec, it's French first, English second. So it is almost like going to a different country. Like I feel more of a cultural shock going to Montreal than I do going to Michigan or Buffalo. Like anywhere in the United States is nowhere to the near cultural shock that you'll get it when you step foot into Quebec.
Yeah, I believe that.
Right? So it's just a very, very different atmosphere. So I really like how they talked about immigration in that, because they're even more selective of who they let immigrate into the province. Now, they don't have a lot of choice, because in Canada, once you're immigrating to Canada, you can go wherever you want, but they can certainly make people's lives difficult. Right. So there's a lot of mosque burnings that occur and other such things that have occurred in Quebec. So I thought that was a very interesting social commentary that they brought in there about talking about immigration. So these are all like-minded people who are trying to figure out how to survive. So they learn how to hunt and kill and build bombs, and there's an accident. So one of the gentlemen is carrying a pipe bomb, and it goes off and it kills him instantly. And of course, there's a debate of what you should do. And half of the group wants to, what you could do the quote unquote right thing and call the police. And other members of the group do not, because they're concerned that the police are going to show up there and there's an arsenal. You got these pipe bombs, you got guns, you got all this stuff that probably isn't registered. This guy's living off the map, or off the grid. They already have an issue with authority. So, and they're debating on what they should do. So Scott, if you were in this situation and you were part of this camp and this happened, what would you want to do?
I would be on the side of the majority of we need to call the authorities. We need to get someone out here. We need to notify someone, because this is not good and we can't do this on our own.
I agree with you 100%. I would definitely be on that side too. I understand the concern of the domestic terrorism and the concern about the unregistered weapons. I do get it. I do understand that concern, especially in Canada, because we have different gun laws than what you guys have. You cannot conceal and carry in Canada. You can own guns and you can keep guns, but they're supposed to be for target practicing and hunting. You just can't walk around Canada with a gun. That's not actually a thing. Now, if you're up in the northern areas, probably yes, because you're doing so for protection from animals and stuff. But if you go to Toronto, you're not packing, unless it's illegal, right? That's not how that works. So anyway, bottom line is the gentleman that owns the survival camp ends up burning the body with gasoline. So then the guests try to flee, and there is basically a slow kill off of each guest, some through just the elements and some through snipering. So in this situation, Scott, if you were to flee, where would you try to go? So the goal that they're trying to get to is their cars, which are a couple of miles away. would you just run for the car and hope for the best? And like, would you do, like, I honestly, watching this movie, I would do exactly what they did.
Yeah, I think I would do exactly what they did, except I think I would, instead of going straight for the car, I would try to find, like, because obviously this guy's got traps set up everywhere. And he showed you where a lot of them were, but like in panic mode, it's kind of hard to remember. But like in my head, what I would want to do is I'd want to find a way off the beaten path and just kind of hide out, let them go past me if there's a way I can cover up my tracks somehow, and let them think that I'm making a run for the car, wait for them to get out there, not see me, and then come back looking for me, and then sneak my way to the car.
That's very clever. It'd be hard to hide your tracks though, because and that's a problem. They're all professional survivalists, right? So, and the guy that's hunting them is like the king survivalist, right? So I think that's a really good strategy, and I'm not criticizing you. I just think that
covering the tracks is the toughest part.
Yeah, that would be really hard in this situation. Now, he doesn't have track dogs or anything like that, which surprises me that he doesn't have track dogs. I would have thought that'd be something they would have here. But eventually, there is one surviving individual who does take down the main camp leader, but there's some really shocking deaths in this that you see coming, and you kind of see people doing things where you're like, oh man, don't do that. Like at one point, one of the characters falls through ice, and they manage to get this individual out, and it's a man and a woman. A man saves a woman, and later on, they're naked under a blanket together. I'm not sure if you noticed that.
Yep. To use their body heat.
Use their body heat, and it wasn't sexual at all.
No.
He was happily married, and he was like, I'm sure, as a man, perhaps maybe he became aroused, but I don't know if he'd become aroused in that situation. There's a lot of emotional stress going on.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not a man, so and I'm not a heterosexual man, so I don't know how I would feel in that situation. But I thought that was clever.
Yeah.
And honest, right? What someone who has survivalist training would probably do.
Yep, because I'll say they already had their thermal blanket with them. They wrapped her up in that, tried to do her best, and then realized that he needed more warmth. And you have to take your clothes off to give you that body heat, because the clothes would get in the way and not actually emit enough heat to warm up your body. So you would have to be naked against someone to be that warm.
So it's interesting that we looked at this, because we went from people who had no clue what they were doing to people that kind of had an idea what they were doing to people who knew what they were doing. In these three films, and I think that I didn't plan it that way. I just realized as we went through that that's what happened.
Right. It just worked that way.
It just worked that way. So I think that's, yet again, all three films are very interesting. One case, you're really mad at the characters. Another case, you're kind of like, oh man, guys, if you just work together, you could work this out. You have the skill set. And this one here, you're like, man, I guess that's the best decisions. I don't know what I would do. Like, it's one of those, unless you have that advanced training, I think watching this movie, the most recent one, The Decline, you really don't know what you would do, and you're almost like learning from them.
Right.
So the next area is backpacking and camping.
Yes.
And not the Heather camping, which is provincial park, so she could go get drunk and hook up with her boyfriends.
In other words, glamping.
Well, it wasn't glamping. We still slept on the ground. I didn't air mattress.
Oh, okay.
Actually, funny story. One time we left all the windows open and we went to party at this beach, and there was a rainstorm. We came back and it was drenched.
Oh,
we were like 17 at the time, and these older dudes and this chick from a campsite came to help us. They were like 21. We were like 17. But our guy friends were older, because that's always how it is. And we all partied and shit. It was actually turned out to be a lot of fun. But it was also a provincial park, which was like, the biggest thing that we might have run into is like a skunk.
Right.
We weren't going to run into anything scary. So anyway, I will let you continue your piece here.
All right. So what I'm going to bring up with this one is kind of like, what are some of the dangers of being lost in the woods? So obviously there's hypothermia, there's dehydration, there's heat stress and heat stroke, falls that could lead to injury or head trauma, which, in the woods, especially at nighttime when it gets dark in the woods, it gets freaking dark.
Oh yeah, there's no light. There's no natural light to see.
Yeah, and so tripping over a stone or a root you would fall flat on your face and could seriously hurt yourself.
Absolutely.
Let's see, then there's waterborne illnesses through drinking tainted water. So like drinking lake water, if you're dehydrated, like that's very dangerous. So you got to boil your water. Make sure you do that. Then you would have possible infections of open wounds, poisoning from toxic plants if you're trying to, like, if you're starving and you're trying to eat a berry or a mushroom and you don't know what you're doing. This is where Kenneth would be probably really handy. He probably knows.
Oh my God, Kenneth would be handy in all this shit.
Right. See, then there would be flooded streams that are not passable, so trapping you in an area that you can't get across now. And then, obviously, the dangers of animals. So, like, you got bears, snakes, bees, insects. Of all
I can think of bees, like, now and then, where Macaulay Culkin's character gets stung to death by bees.
And My Girl.
My Girl. Or not now and then, sorry, yeah, My Girl. I'm just messing up my shitty movies. But, yeah, anyway. But I see what you're saying. If someone's allergic to bees, right, that could be pretty traumatic, yeah.
Yep, and then, and you got to be careful, too, late at night when you're sleeping. That's when a lot of the insects will come out, and some insects are poisonous, could bite you while you're sleeping, but depending on in what region of the world you are in, you could be like laying next to a fire ant home, and you don't want that.
Have you ever run into anything dangerous in the wild?
Not really. I'm trying to think. I think like the most we've ever seen was like maybe a coyote, and it was on its own.
Wow, that's it.
Yeah, I haven't got the bear experiences that you have.
Yeah, I've had a lot of bear experiences.
But we did run into a wild boar once.
Oh, that's cool.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, the chances of it doing it, even with bears, right? Like, the 2 bear experiences I had were with baby bears, and that was scary because, wherever there's baby bear, there's mama bear. Yeah. And in both situations, I was fine. I just, removed myself from being near the baby bear. I've seen mooses before too. People always joke about mooses with Canadians, but I have seen a moose. I've seen one in a pond and one in the middle of the road when I was driving, and it was a baby moose, and you just waited for the moose to move. Like, I came to and the moose looked at me, like, I came to a stop, and the moose looked at me like, you got a fucking problem? And I was like, no, I don't, moose. You just take your time, and I will just wait. And I waited for him to decide that he was done on that road and to move off the road. Like, he was in no rush.
Yeah, and mooses are huge. Mooses are huge. And
I have run into a pack of coyotes when I was walking my dog around here. So last winter I was walking Mickey, and I saw a fox run by me. And I'm like, wow, that fox is going really fast. And then out of nowhere, 4 coyotes came, and they were chasing the fox, and the fox got away. And they were probably about 20 feet away from me. And the one turned around and looked at me, and I just stared at it back. And it went and left, because with coyotes, they have, animal instinct. So if you turn around to run, they're going to chase you. And I wasn't concerned about me. I was concerned about my dog. But I think they were just more or less pissed off that the fox got away, and were pissed off at me because I probably caused a distraction. But it was concerning. But I think having basic wildlife knowledge and how to manage wildlife is something that anyone should have before they go camping. I have very, very little patience for people that choose to go backpacking or camping and don't have any understanding of how to handle an animal that they run into.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like that's something you should just know. I feel like you should also bring a book on plants and fresh drinking water and a makeshift filtering system if needed. Like, I feel like there's certain things that if you're going to go backpacking and camping, you should just come prepared.
Yeah.
And that sounds judgy, but I think there's no excuse otherwise.
Well, there's been too many instances in real world where people have got lost and died because they made dumb decisions.
Well, or people go and they camp places where there's mountain lions and get mad when the mountain lion attacks them. And I was like, well, or a bear, you're in their territory.
Mm-hmm.
Like what the hell? We're outnumbering them. Trust me, it's okay. Bears aren't going to, have a coup and take over the province or the countries. So, this is their land, and if you come into their territory, shit's going to happen. So you need to proceed with caution and don't feed them and do other stupid shit that people do, right? So anyway.
Exactly. But yeah, like that. One of the things I was going to bring up is I was kind of looking originally for like history of survival films, and it was kind of tough to pinpoint because most survival films fit in different types of genres, so it's harder to find them. But one of the oldest ones that I found that fit especially in the backpacking theme that we're talking here is Deliverance from 1972, which is 4 city-dwelling friends decide to get away from their jobs, wives, and kids for a week to canoe in rural Georgia. When the men arrive, they are not welcomed by the backwoods locals who stalk the vacationers and savagely attack them in the woods. Reeling from the ambush, friends attempt to return home but are surrounded by dangerous rapids and pursued by a madman. Soon their canoe trip turns into a fight for survival. And so, yeah, this one is just like exactly that. It's getting lost in the woods when you are in a panic trying to run away from someone that's attacking you. I mean, obviously, the whole backwoods locals thing's probably like it's probably way
It's
over.
like Hills Have Eyes, not Hills Have Eyes. Wrong Turn before Wrong Turn was a thing.
Right. That's pretty much what it was. Yeah.
Right? But Burt Reynolds was in this. Burt Reynolds and like John Voight. Man, that must have been a sexy movie. This is like 1972. They would have been like super hot.
Oh, and I'll say Burt Reynolds looked very good.
Right? I can just imagine.
But yeah, this one was a very tense film that just kind of showed like the situations of trying to survive in these situations, especially when it comes to the canoeing on the rapids, like how to navigate through them and everything. It just was if you didn't know what you were doing, you would hurt yourself and drown.
Absolutely. Rapids are super dangerous, man. Like this is, wow. It sounds like it was a really good film. Do you recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it?
Yes, I absolutely do, because I watched it for the first time this week, and I really enjoyed it, and it's a classic for a reason, and like it's iconic. I definitely recommend it, and I figured it fit fairly well with this. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about was one from 2011 called A Lonely Place to Die. While hiking and climbing in the Scottish Highlands, a group of 5 mountaineers discover a young Serbian girl buried in a small chamber. In the attempt to get the girl to safety, they become caught up in a terrifying game of cat and mouse with the kidnappers. One thing I have noticed a lot when it comes to these films that are based like backpacking and woods and all that seems to be a theme of hunting and being hunted.
Yeah, it seems to be a big thing.
And yeah, like once again, when you're in panic mode, it's kind of hard to figure out what you would do when you're being hunted by others. But what would you think of like if you came across this like weird underground chamber and found this girl trapped in it?
Well, I would probably do exactly what these guys are going to do and try to save her. Of course, like that's not even a second guess. And I assume if I'm a mountaineer, I got experience. Like if these guys are hiking and climbing in the Scottish Highlands, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I would feel pretty confident in it, but at the same time, I would almost be wondering if it was a trap, which I'm wondering if it was bait that she was there. But man, like I would probably take her and do my best to get back to civilization, and I don't know, hope that I could get somewhere with a cell phone. And the moment I got somewhere with a cell phone signal, I'd be calling the authorities. Like
that was like one of their issues is, of course, cell phone signal out there was very sketchy.
But they would have known that going in there.
Yeah.
So like I think that's one thing with movies like this. I think if you're experienced mountaineers, you would know where there's cell phone signal and you would know where there's not.
Yeah.
And you would know where to go. So that would be my only argument here. But without seeing the movie, I could say that's probably what I would do.
Yeah, and I'll say that's pretty close to like how they reacted and everything too in the film. And like this one is one of those kind of like what you were talking about with The Decline, where these people are very experienced and doing everything right. Just sometimes bad things happen. Like one of the guys one of the people gets separated from the group and have to find their way back, and they're like trying to mark their way as they're going, trying to figure out the path, because once you get lost in the woods, it can be very hard.
Oh yeah, everything looks the same.
Yeah. And then another situation was these experienced mountain climbers, and well, one makes the wrong little step and falls to his death.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah, like and this is one of those other instances too of where people are running and trying to hide for cover, and they trip and fall over roots and stuff, which I was bringing up as part of the dangers in the beginning, because like it broke someone's leg when they were running away, and they were hobbled for the rest of the movie.
I had that happen. I went to a place called Algonquin Park with some friends years ago, and we went on a hike, and it was, this is a provincial park, and we were on, trails, and I fell and I hurt my ankle, and I thought I was fine, and I walked on it, and it was a good walk. It was probably at least a good 10 kilometers. I got back to the campsite. I sat down. I went to stand up. I couldn't.
Oh, wow.
It was swollen.
I was in and we got a rainstorm that night, and we were right on the water, and the rain was coming into the tent, and my boyfriend at the time, who I'm still actually good friends with to this day, bless his heart, he was like, we're not staying here. Like, I was in tears. I was crying so hard because it hurt so bad. And my buddy drove a Mustang, and I got the front seat, and my boyfriend, who was a big dude at the time, and this other dude that we were with, sat in the back of this little Mustang, and we all drove home for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
And I remember being in, and I was in safety, like we could get into a car and leave. And even though the park rangers gave us shit because they were just assholes. It sucked. So I can't imagine being in the middle of nowhere and something happening and you getting hurt.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with it then?
Yeah. Cause like, what do you do? You're like miles and miles and miles away from any type of help.
Right. So
like that's the dangers of Mother Nature, especially in the woods.
And it makes for a good movie, right? Because it's that unpredictability of, a natural environment that we're exposing ourselves to that is really we're at the mercy of.
Yeah. And I believe the next movie is the one that you did some research on.
So Preservation is a 2014 horror film, and it basically has a husband, his wife, and his brother going out to a secluded forest, and they do a hunting trip. And this is something I guess they do yearly. They're trying to help. So the couple's trying to help the brother who's suffering from some PTSD. And then, of course, someone comes and steals their stuff, right? So someone comes and steals their stuff and begins to hunt them down one by one. And the brother who is, former army sergeant who has all this experience, he gets knocked off within the first 20 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
So it's basically this husband and this wife trying to survive. And they go to this abandoned ranger station. No one's there. The husband creates a distraction so the wife can take off because, of course, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Right? Like, add to the, already mounting issues that are going on. And it's these three boys that are no older than maybe 16 or 17 that are just causing chaos and killing these people. So they're trying to compete against, the elements because she doesn't know where she's going, never been there before. So she's trying to survive that and also trying to survive these kids. And eventually she does overtake them. But all the choices that were made in that for novice people, I think made sense. Even the experienced guy, how he ends up getting killed, you don't really see coming.
Yeah.
He thinks that this guy is dead and then another one shows up. It's fair that you would think there's only one predator. You wouldn't think that there's three. And he's also someone who's suffering from PTSD, so he could easily, not be fully in his right mind. And I just felt the movie was really well filmed with using nature as a obstacle and then as the hunter. So it's almost like we got this forever Hunger Games mentality, right? People being hunted in the wilderness. So I don't know. Did you see this movie? I can't remember.
I did. I actually watched it in prep for the show.
And would you do what they did here? Was there anything that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think the decisions that were made, especially by the wife when she was telling her husband, "You are too injured with your leg.
Yes.
Stay here and hide. I'm going to be the one going and getting help. I'm not hurt." Like the decisions that she made making him stay at the ranger station. Of course, he being a stubborn guy didn't listen. Mm-hmm, but having him stay there at that ranger station, hiding out, that was the best idea for him with his injury, and her to go on this trek herself because she also was smart, found that map and wrote everything on her arm and
yes, which was really smart. Yeah.
So I think she was probably even I wouldn't have even thought of shit like that. So I probably would have got my ass killed. But I think they did the right choices in this.
God, I would have been dead in the first 20 minutes too. That's what would have happened. And someone else would have survived. Kenneth would have survived.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenneth would have survived. And Desolation, did I say that right?
Desolation.
Thank you. Desolation, 2017. A young mother goes into the remote wilderness area with her son and her best friend to scatter her late husband's ashes, and then they get stalked. So they get stalked by this hiker who eventually kills and guts like an animal the friend.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then chases the mother and the son, and the mother and son have a little bit of a power balance. So clearly they have hiked before, because the moment the mother finds out that the friend is missing, they go into the mode of, I need to get my son out of here. I need to get safety. She does all the things where you're like, yes, that's the right thing to do. Yes, that's the right thing to do, right? She's making choices that make sense, but then panic begins to take over. And one point, her son and her both kind of team up together to take down this guy, but there's some separation that occurs. It's a very good film that looks at a parent and child relationship, accepting the child has become somebody that has an opinion and a voice, and that you can't shelter from, and that they have to work together to get out of the situation that they're in. So the wilderness kind of adds to it because the mom has knowledge, but so does the son. And this hiker has advanced knowledge, and together they're trying to outsmart him.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think everyone in this film does the right thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with what anybody does. In that situation, I don't know what you would do. Like, yet again, most people would be like, well, I wouldn't go backpacking in the middle of nowhere. I know people that love backpacking.
Oh, for sure.
And they do that shit all the time. Like, because we have Algonquin Park, people will go out on canoe trips to the middle of the park, to the middle of nowhere. So this could happen. Like, all this stuff could happen. So it's just really, really interesting. And I like this realism horror piece of where they bring in real life situations that could occur and how people would actually react.
Right. Yeah, this sounds like a very interesting, tense movie.
It's a real movie. You know, like you watch this and you go, yeah, this could probably occur. There could be some psycho in the woods that would chase you, and you know how he kills them and how he gets them is like, yeah, that could happen.
Oh, I believe it.
Right? Like it's not like Jason Voorhees, right? Like it's a little more realistic than that. And then our final movie that really, well, for this section anyway, that isn't really realistic, but is a really good film is The Ritual 2017.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
I have. I really love this movie.
It's a good movie. I really liked it too. So basically, it's based on 5 university friends that experience a tragedy where one of their friends are killed. And I believe 4 of them then go away because there's 5 and then 4, one gets killed. So 4 go away. Yeah. And they go to scatter the ashes, and one of them hurts their ankle. So they think, I'm going to take a shortcut. They look at the map. We'll just go through the forest. And this does get very supernatural because it's more of a creature feature, but things get creepier as they go. So they start to see a sacrifice. They each get picked off one by one. They eventually end up in a village area. So obviously this whole section hopefully was full of spoilers. I know Scott would have put that in the notes, but it's full of spoilers. And one survives at the end. Ironically, the one that did nothing in the convenience store when his friend was murdered at the beginning scene, but he's the one that survived by basically standing up to the creature, I guess you could say, and a very dramatic ending at the end of it.
Yeah, with a horrifying freaking creature too.
Yeah, the creature in it was great. We probably should have used this for a creature feature, but would you go through the woods? I think if we rewind back to where all this shit went down before it got supernatural, would you go through the woods, or would you be like, let's just stay to the path? Dude can put up with it.
I would be saying let's stay to the path because
yes!
I know when you go into unknown woods and try to find your way around, you're going to get lost. And make things
Right. That was the one thing I love that movie. Don't get me wrong. I would rewatch it. I have no beefs with it. I get why they made the decision they made, but I put myself in that situation. So my friend hurts their ankle because he was still able to walk on it.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of the whiner of the group too. So I understand that as well. But I would have been like, dude, let's try to support this the best we can, because I didn't feel like they had a lot of training either when it comes to like first aid stuff or anything like that.
Now, one thing I probably would have done is at least enter the woods a little bit to see if I could find a big enough branch to use as a crutch.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
And that would at least to help him keep his balance while he's walking and I have to put too much weight on his ankle.
So you would probably enter the woods to the fact that you could still see the outside.
Yeah.
Right? You would not want to go further than that.
Nope, I would just kind of scan like nearby and see what I can find.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I've had to do that before when I've hurt my ankle out in the woods, like at my buddy's house. I just had to like kind of scan around for a branch to kind of balance myself as I was walking.
Were you by yourself in that situation?
I had a couple friends with me.
And did they help you?
Like, yeah, they looked for a stick.
No, they were like, good luck.
Well, they weren't going to carry my fat ass.
Carry your fat ass. All right, so why don't we move on? Because we got a lot of cover, so.
Yeah. So the next one that we'll bring up in environment-wise is surviving in the desert and what are some of the dangers there. So dangers in the desert is very dangerous not and insects.
Oh my God, like everything's going to kill you in the desert.
Yeah. Very little rainfall, so you're not going to have much to drink if you're not prepared. Intense sunlight and heat, which will cause heat stroke and delirium. wide and fast temperature range, so you'll be like super hot and then freezing cold at night.
That's Vegas for you right there.
Yeah. I've never been there, but I know that just from stories.
One day, when you're living your best life.
Yep, exactly. Very sparse vegetation, so not much room for shade. High mineral content, sandstorms, mirages, and just like the absolute lack of water, and like the very difficult to walk on terrain. And one movie that I found for this that I figured was very fitting was It Stains the Sands Red from 2016. This is about a virulent pandemic that sweeps the globe from end to end like a pitiless scourge, leaving behind legions of freshly animated, decomposing zombies. Under those circumstances, in the carcass of a leveled Las Vegas, a totally unprepared exotic dancer, Molly, crosses the rugged terrain of the unforgiving desert, driven solely by the will to survive and a motive even greater than her own life. However, she's not alone. Like a powerful flesh magnet, Molly attracts a ferocious undead male who follows her without stopping. So she is literally trapped in the desert after her car gets wrecked and her boyfriend gets eaten alive by one of these zombies. And she's miles, like hundreds of miles away from anywhere, it seems. So she just starts walking and like ends up, unfortunately, attracting one of the slow, shambling zombies that like, so she is just constantly like walking faster than him, but at the same time where she needs to take a rest, he doesn't. So he's continuously wanting to move. So there'll be times where she's having to run at full speed in the middle of the desert to get so far ahead of him that she can like find somewhere to hide and take a nap for just a little bit to get some fresh air or to get caught up and rested, and then wake up and the zombie is there again. Wow. And you can see like the toll that this heat's starting to take on her, because like she's starting to get cracked skin, like she's becoming very parched, she's starting to hallucinate, she's starting to become delirious, like she actually ends up giving the zombie a name and like starts talking to it like it's her friend as she's walking. Like it's very fascinating how like showing like the deterioration of like someone as they're like stuck in this like Las Vegas blazing heat in the middle of the day.
How does she stay hydrated?
I think she ended up like being smart and brought a couple water bottles with her.
Okay.
And like put them in like a bag on her shoulder. And so she was able to stay hydrated that way for a while. And then I'm trying to remember, but I think it ends up raining at night, and like she finds like a little puddle of water and is able to like survive off of that for a little bit to get to civilization.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I just thought that was a very interesting one, and it like fit a lot of the like things that would happen during like that type of situation with the mirages and all that. I think it really shows like the suffering that she had to go through.
Wow, I don't even know what I would do in that situation. Like that's my worst nightmare. I would die of heat stroke. I don't like That's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't in that situation. Like obviously there's things you can do to try to keep cool, but in the middle of the desert, like it's so unforgiving.
Yeah, I'll say not only are you stuck in an environment that's very unforgiving, you have a freaking unstoppable monster that's just doesn't get tired following you.
Absolutely.
Which just pushes you forward even more.
Like COVID-19.
Yeah, right?
Wow, so how does she survive?
She ends up making it to civilization by just always keeping a few steps ahead. She ends up finding a truck along the way that also broke down, but had like that looked like it got attacked by zombies at a different point.
Oh, okay.
And it had a inner tube, like like for tubing, like on the water.
Oh, right, yeah.
And so she ends up getting close enough to the zombie that's following her, and then puts the tube over top of him and like pins his arms. And then she ends up, because she's basically gone delirious and talks to him like it's her friend, she actually like has a rope tied to it and is just dragging the zombie along, talking to him, and he's like sitting there just still trying to bite her, but he's like so far behind he can't do anything now. So she kind of like funny. She's kind of pretty much just defanged him in a way, so he's not like as much of a threat. And then she ends up making it to a military base where a lot of the survivors are.
That's interesting. Wow. Cool.
It's a very fascinating movie. Like especially because it's pretty much her and the zombie the whole movie.
Yeah, I like how we choose random movies here that aren't well known. I think that's important, right? Like to pull different movies into it. So the last one, and I'll talk really briefly about it, is Downrange. I did talk about it a couple weeks ago. Basically, it's a bunch of kids go out, and I think they're in like desert-like conditions, and they their car blows a tire, and then they end up getting taken out by a silent sniper. So some things that I thought was really smart. So on the sniper's end, they shoot the cell phone off of a selfie stick
Yeah.
when they're trying to get a signal. I thought that was really smart. One of the characters uses a video shot from his cell phone camera to determine the sniper's position. I thought that was really smart. One of the characters gets a toolbox and duct tapes a metal lid to his arm for protection in order to try to change the tire. I thought that was really smart. The sniper shoots the character through his hand when he goes to take a sip of water, which is such an asshole thing to do. And
Yeah, pretty much crippling them.
Crippling them completely. Two of the characters set fire to the SUV that is also in an accident to create a smoke scene. And probably one of the dumbest moves of the movie is someone is firing a gun and the bullet jams and they take one more shot and it shoots them in the face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that movie alone really showed, it was quick to the punch. It's a sniper-based movie. These kids are in the middle of nowhere trying to survive, and those are the smart things that they do. And there's some small other dumb things that they do, like running out, running thinking that they're going to get somewhere and they don't, and getting shot. But the gun backfiring on one of the characters, like, man, that just summed up that movie. Like, it was just ridiculous. So
it totally was. And yeah, like, and it shows the danger of the heat exhaustion and all that stuff. Like, because I mean, they're barely like holding on because they need that water and all that.
Oh yeah, and like they're panicking with a sniper and stuff like that there too, right? It's just a really good movie. And then I guess our last one is the ocean.
Yes. So yeah, this one I'll bring up some of the dangers that could happen while being stranded in the ocean. So if you're on a boat or whatever, you would have possibly a chance of person going overboard or lost at sea. You have the heavy weather emergencies such as the storms and hurricanes and like just high winds that could be very detrimental. Canoe disabled due to capsizing, swamping, or breaking apart. So yeah, any like boats busting apart and then you're stuck out in the water. Possible fire on the boat. Personal injuries. You got illness. You got collision and hull damage. You got running aground, dehydration, hypothermia, and exhaustion/drowning. Like those are some of like the many such bad situations that could happen while you're out like in the sea.
In the movie that you chose had basically all this but fire and collision.
Right. I did not see this one, so I just pretty much got some information.
Oh man, I've seen this movie.
Yeah, I was gonna try watching it, but I didn't want to rent it.
It's I like it. It's a heavy watch.
That's what I heard, and I just wasn't ready to do another heavy watch just yet. But this is one I will definitely have to watch at some time. But the movie we were talking about is Open Water from 2003, which I feel had most of these elements, like Heather had just said. So it's about Daniel and Suzanne embark on a tropical vacation with their scuba diving certifications in tow. During a group dive, the two separate themselves from the others to dive a little deeper. An incorrect head count suggests the entire group is returned, so the boat reparts. When the pair resurface, they make out a vessel in the distance, but it does not immediately set in that they have been left behind, with sharks lurking beneath. Their survival chances grow smaller. So, for one, being stranded at sea, like, in this movie, did they have like they were diving, so they probably didn't even have like life preservers or anything, did they?
I think they were able to tread water somehow and save float, and I don't really know how, because this is based off of a true story, right?
Yeah.
Like loosely based off of a true story, obviously, because we don't know what happened to the divers. But it is a really, really sad film, and you watch, like, there's the shark in this, but there's also the dehydration because they're in salt water.
Yeah.
Because which is the absolute worst. The starvation, the hypothermia, and you're just watching these two people panic for an hour and a half.
Yeah, that would be really tough one to watch.
It is. It's very anxiety driven. The acting is very good. And honestly, I look at this situation and I've thought about it, and I saw it in your notes. I thought, man, this is interesting. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, in this particular situation, like, you're in the middle of the freaking ocean. Like, what would you do? All you can really do is tread water.
I would probably hope for a quick death, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like that's probably all you could do at that point.
I maybe like cut my arm and hope a shark would come. Well, the shark will just bite you and then you'll just bleed out, so it won't really matter. Or hope that an ocean liner is going to find me, or maybe try to swim with the current. Like, I'm not savvy enough to know where the current is, right? And there's a lot of movies like this. The Reef is like this too, where they're trying to get back to shore. And I think it's just one of the scariest things. I think out of all the places to be lost in, so we look at the snow, we look at the forest, we look at the desert, we look at the water. I prefer to be in the forest.
Yeah.
I feel like in the forest, I could get shelter, I could get water, I could get food.
Yep, that is where I have the most survival knowledge.
Right. Next would be winter, if I'm dressed for the elements, because I can still get the same things, minus it's cold.
Yeah.
And then desert, and then water. Because like in this movie, I don't know what else I could have done. Like, it's basically a movie of watching two people slowly die.
Yeah, I mean,
like, to be honest with you, that's really what it is. So
I mean, because in all honesty, like being stranded out in the middle of an ocean, you don't have many options but to pretty much just hope for someone to find you or die. Like, you can't really rely on your survival skills because there's not much you can really do.
Which is why it makes it such a good horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, like, really, if we look at the survivalist horror theme, this is why it does so well. And some people love this movie and some people don't, and that's fine. But it's smart because it plays in an atmosphere that is unavoidable and detrimental. Like, how are you going to avoid it? Like, how are you going to get out of this situation? You're not going to get out of this situation. So, you know, it's a really, really good movie for that purpose, but it's a really hard watch.
Yeah, and that I believe. I will have to watch this and get back to, like, bring it up on one of our shows just so I can say I've finally seen it and give my thoughts. But, yeah, I just found this one to be, like, the one that fit mostly with the dangers of being stranded. And it sounds like a situation I would never want to be in.
Well, you probably never put yourself in. I don't know if you ever would go diving.
Yeah, like, if I was going to go diving, it'd be, like, by the shore.
You'd be like, I'll go snorkeling.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll be out there with a professional and make sure that it's not like a large group, just a small group of people.
I remember one time I'd been snorkeling out in the ocean is I went on a cruise with my parents when I was 17, and we went to a bunch of different islands. And I can't remember the island that we were at now. It was one of the last islands that we went to. So I want to say maybe it was Curacao or St. Lucia. And we went out on this diving boat. And it was a snorkeling boat, right? And they had rum punch and stuff like that on there. So we went out and we were doing some divings with some fish and stuff like that. But then we had to come back because the water was getting choppy and people had been drinking all afternoon. Not me, because I was, 17 with my parents and I didn't want to chance it. So, but I remember thinking, oh man, this is going to be a rough ride. I better find a way that I can just go with the waves, because the waves were getting bigger and we were in a smaller boat. And I went to like the front of the boat and I was able to kind of just lie down a little bit on the side. And I remember just closing my eyes and just letting myself flow with the waves, like the up and down motion. And I could hear people puking over the side.
Oh, wow.
Because you got to think, people been drinking.
Right.
In the hot sun. Right. And my cousin was with us, and my cousin was about 5 years older than me. And I think she like locked herself in the downstairs bathroom and just puked the entire time, because she had been out partying the night before. And then she went on this fucking like,
oh, jeez.
Right. So that was, and we were pretty close to shore, but we had to get back to the boat and to whatever. And it was an adventure. Like, I still remember that feeling of these big waves and me going up and down and just thinking, just ride with the waves, Heather, just ride with the waves. But yeah, I can't imagine going out like what these guys did to the middle of nowhere and scuba diving.
Yeah, no,
much different experience.
I'm good.
Right? I have a friend that cave dives actually, and that's crazy too.
Nope, not doing that one either.
We could have gone over that one too, cave diving. There's going to eventually be a movie about those kids that got stuck in that cave. Forget which country it was in, but the soccer team.
Yeah.
Right. And like and only one diver got killed and they managed to get all the kids out. Like, that story to me is still crazy.
Yeah, that is like somehow they've figured out a way to survive during all that.
Well, not just saying how they got him out, like like the route to get them out. I don't know if you remember watching it at the time, but they showed a map and I was like, oh my God, like these 12-year-old boys are going to have to somehow get through these really, really small, like open water too, like those small spaces to swim through. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I would be dead,
Right. That'd be one of those situations where I'd be fucked.
right? So anyway, as you've learned today, don't listen to Scott and I. Watch some of these movies and take some pics from them, and watch other ones and think, gee, maybe I should just never put myself in that situation.
Right.
Perhaps I won't go and do that final ride on the ski hill. Perhaps I won't go scuba diving off of the coast of Australia. Perhaps I will not get lost in the desert and get chased by a zombie. Perhaps I won't go backpacking without the proper supplies. So, but these films give us that risk of doing those things in the safety of our own living room, couch, bedroom, wherever you choose to watch your films. And that's why we love them.
Exactly. I'll say it's that realistic fear thing, like something that could actually happen. And that's what, gives you that adrenaline rush.
Absolutely. Just like people that listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Yes, it gives them that adrenaline rush for sure. So our final segment of our podcast this evening is Out of the Dark. And we wanted to talk about the rise of the drive-ins.
Yes.
So I've been to drive-in theaters many a times, more when I was actually younger, and a couple of times with friends. We would all carpool or get into one car and go to the drive-in and sneak in snacks and stuff like that and hang out. And never did I ever go one-on-one with a nail collar.
I'm shocked.
I know, right? Like literally, that was the conversation that we had. Where I'm like, no. I actually haven't been and made out at a drive-in, but I've always thought drive-ins were cool, and like some of them seem kind of like tacky, right? Because you drive in there and you pay. Sometimes it's by the carload, sometimes it's per person. It depends on the drive-in you go to, and then you park and you kind of get like the shitty sound with your radio. Because at the time when I used to go, we used to have this like, when you had to bring your disc player and like the little cassette thing and put it into the car.
Oh yeah.
And make CDs play.
Oh well, mine was even worse than that.
Oh yeah, what did you have?
There was no radio station for ours at first. What we had was we would pull up in our parking spot and there would be a pole outside and there would be this cheap ass speaker that you would grab and you would hook it to the inside part of your window of your car.
Oh wow, no, we had the radio station.
Yeah, the radio station came a little bit later, like for some of the experiences I had.
So when did you start going to the drive-in, Scott?
Well, I do remember going to the drive-in with my stepbrother and his mother, so it would be my, I guess, kind of sort of stepmom in a way. We rode in her hatchback, so we got to we were like maybe 5-6 years old, sitting in the very, very back seat. We got to watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on the drive-in screen.
Wow, that must have been super cute.
Oh, it was, we were cute kids. I can say that much. But then it was years and years and years and years later, when I was 21, 22, that I started going with a bunch of coworkers. When I worked at Rogero, it was the Italian restaurant. Every Sunday night for most of the summer, we would go to the Miracle Twin Drive-In that no longer exists anymore here.
Mm.
And we'd usually just watch the most popular big screen movies because no one was big into horror films like I was. So we'd see Too Fast, Too Furious, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Incredible Hulk, and stuff like that. But one of my fun experiences with that was the age of Party Scott. So I would always go pick up two of my buddies that didn't work with me, and we would go and sit far away from my boss and everybody else, and we'd have 8 joints rolled up and a 12-pack of beer in the car. And
nice.
We would just get lit. And we couldn't even see the movie after a while because we clam baked our car and it was just nothing but smoke.
That sounds really funny.
And
oh man.
Well, then after a while we'd get the munchies and get out and go get food and go wander off and talk to everybody else. But yeah,
you guys be like, we'll have 16 hot dogs, please.
Pretty much, yeah. And so that was my partying days, and then I didn't go again for probably a good, I'd say 13, 14 years. And then around the time that my brother passed away, my ex-wife wanted to take me out just to kind of get my mind off of things and just kind of take a date night. And we went and seen Suicide Squad and Lights Out. It was at the drive-in that's closer to us that I've never been to before, which was a really nice place. And yeah, that was my time of experience in using the radio.
Oh, very nice.
And yeah, as that's a sad memory for me to think of, but at the same time, it's the last time I've been to the drive-in, and drive-ins are now open again and doing really well now, it seems.
It's like they found their calling with social distancing. I feel like they're like, now here's our chance to rise and shine. I myself, the first drive-in I went to was when I was just a baby Heather, and I was 8 years old. And we used to go to a place called Wasaga Beach. I'm actually going up to Wasaga Beach in a couple of weeks. I booked a cottage that I will be going to stay at for a couple of nights and get hammered and smoke a lot of pot. So, because like I'm like Scott at 21 at 37. So and go to the bars because that's how I roll. So anyway, when I was 8, though, we used to go to Wasaga Beach, and we had some other friends, and we all went to the drive-in, and my parents had this badass station wagon. There's a bunch of kids, and there was these cornfields, and we being ranging from ages 8 to like 12, and I think the youngest was like 10, or maybe I was a little bit older. Maybe I was 10. We decided to go running through the cornfields.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we were running through the cornfields. I don't know why our parents let us do that. It wasn't
probably not safe.
It was private. Lost. Well, it was private property too, right? As we found out, because the farmer came in his tractor and was like, "What are you kids doing here?" We were like, "Ah!" And we're like running back. So all you could see is this cornfields, right? It was like a horror movie. It was like, "Ah!" It was like Friday, the remake, where he shows up at the cornfield party, or no, Jason
Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, Freddy versus Jason, where he shows up at the cornfield party. Yeah. That's what it was like, only like kids. And we're like running through. We're like, "Oh my God!" Right? And we weren't lit on fire or anything like that. But
well, that's good.
And I remember yelling, "The farmer's coming! The farmer's coming!" Right? Like, and like trying to get out of this cornfield. Anyway, we obviously made it out of the cornfield. And our parents
or did you
wiser. Or did we? And our parents were none the wiser. And then the other times I went with friends, I never went on like a date night or anything like that. But yeah, we would have a great time. We would just go and sit and go and buy snacks and stuff. And like the drive-ins would always do those movie marathons, which is ironic because you'd be in your car and they'd go to like 3 or 4 in the morning. And you have to drive home afterwards. When you think about it, it was probably not the best idea. But there's 2 people that really go to drive-ins a lot, and it's JP and Carly. So JP from 22 Shots, His and Her, Carly from His and Her, as well as Celluloid Dissections and M versus M podcast, and she does another one, doesn't she? Oh, His and Hers.
Yep, Netflix and Chill as well.
Netflix and Chill as well
with JP.
And they go out to drive-ins, and I think it's super badass. They were actually at one last weekend.
Yeah, they got to see the Back to the Future trilogy.
Yeah, I thought that was really awesome, and they wear like Jason hats and shit. Like they're cool dudes, man. They're cool people. So anyway, yeah. So like I think the drive-ins are really bringing sexy back, and this is their time. And I think it's great that we still have them, because who would have thought in a million years we'd be like, well, we want to go see a movie. Guess we got to go to the drive-in.
Right. Right. Because I was worried because for a while there, like there was rumors of US 23, which is our drive-in that's like close to me now. There was rumors of that one shutting down because it wasn't doing well in business, and now it's like picked up in popularity again. Because if that one closed down, the nearest drive-in to me would have been about a 2-hour drive.
Which is too long to go to a drive-in. Like you're not going to do that. I have 2 within me. Within me, I have a drive-in. It's great. That sounds so.
I need to go to this drive-in.
Inappropriate, doesn't it?
It does.
Anyway, within driving distance from me, I have 2 drive-ins, and then one that's a little bit further. It's actually near my workplace. But yeah, and they're starting to pick up and stuff, and they do have to put in specific guidelines with the physical distancing and all that kind of stuff. But I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see that drive-ins have not played their last films, and hopefully we'll be able to survive this new world. They're equipped.
Yeah, and the one thing that I will say that's kind of cool, and I think it's starting this weekend, is it's picked up in popularity, at least with more drive-ins picking it up. But the original Evil Dead is coming to drive-ins all over the U.S. I don't know if it's making it to Canada at all, but apparently closest one to me is about 2 hours away at the like far end of Detroit, and it's with Evil Dead and I Drink Your Blood back to back. And I'm like, that's freaking cool. I wish I could go to that, but such a long drive and wouldn't be getting home till so freaking late. But it is very tempting if I had someone to go with, but unfortunately at this time I do not.
Well, who knows, Everyone's been cooped up for a long time, Scott. People are going to want to get out more.
It's true. Maybe eventually. But I don't think I'll find anybody by this weekend.
Love is, well, you don't have to find a life partner. You just have to find a night partner.
Right. Those are few and far between at this moment. But maybe Friday night I can go out, try to Mac, and then Saturday.
And be like, hey, girl, you want to go to the drive-in?
Well, I'll go see. What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, my favorite. Then you can offer some pot like you did with the other.
Want to smoke some pot?
You want to get high? Are you high?
Are you high? Are you high?
Scott making his moves. But yeah, anyway, yay to drive-ins. Hopefully they continue, and hopefully other movie theaters open too, but bless them drive-ins for giving us something to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hopefully going to hit him up a couple times this summer just to show my support one way or another.
And bring his case of beer and some pot.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, glory days. Oh, fuck off. Yes, you do.
No,
Don't even try that with me.
Not the bringing a case of beer and weed into like my car. Now I would be doing that stuff at home.
You wouldn't bring a couple of roadies and have them at the drive-in and smoke a joint.
I might bring like a flask and a joint, just not a case of beer.
You're like, because I can't drink that much beer anymore and drive.
No.
You'd be like passed out. They'd be like, sir? You'd be like, no, just let me sleep here tonight in the back seat.
It's good. And just for clarification, I never did drink and drive. Just want to put that out there. I got buzzed.
How did you get home, Scott?
Well, it was about, let's see, we chugged the beers halfway through the first movie and then sobered up for the next 3 hours.
Sure, Scott. Okay, Scott. Scott just doesn't want to tell us that he was actually, I still know what you did last summer was actually, I know what you did last summer was based on him.
No, I've only drove drunk a couple times. One time driving with one eye open, and that was a scary experience, and I never wanted to do it again.
How old were you then?
21. Shortly after I turned 21.
Just a bit. Oh yeah, 21's the drinking age for you guys. That's right. I'm like, God, that's weird. Why do you wait 2 years? Like, oh, maybe because that's the legal drinking age in the States. Right.
Yeah, you Canadians have it easier there.
Well, we have it at 19 in Ontario, but it's 18 in Quebec.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Anyway, so on that note. Thank you for joining us, everyone, for our 10th episode. Now we're in the double digits. It's like when you turned 10 and it was such a big deal and you were super excited to turn 10. Anyway, I was.
Yeah, me too.
I am excited for every birthday. I get excited about everything.
And our show has turned 10 episodes. Oh, it's so adorable.
I know, right? Like, I never thought we would make it.
I know. I thought Heather would kill me and get rid of my ass by this point and be like, I'm sick of his shit.
No, I would have thought it'd be the other way around, actually. But we've managed to develop a lot of funny stories all the way back from our original. I was thinking of our Skittles story when we went to that theater and that kid spilled those Skittles and all you could hear was like, shh, as it slid down me. I think he spilled like a whole monster bag of Skittles. So.
Oh, I did not. I don't think I even talked about it on that one, but I've experienced that too with sour Skittles.
Oh, that's the worst because sour Skittles are so yum.
They are. And it was such a waste.
So yum in the tum. Anyway, I realized last show we haven't done our plugs because we haven't done much.
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
You can find us on It's Not Horror Okay with Nudie, Android Virus, Venom, and us.
Yeah,
that's it. And you can find that on Horrorphilia. Underneath the NFW feed, I believe, is where it's underneath, actually. I don't think it has its own separate show. I think it's under NFW. And also, we are going to be on Horror for Dummies. We will be recording that this weekend, and that will be released at some point. And we haven't done anything else.
No, we've been pretty lax on our guest spots lately, just giving ourselves a break, because we did a bunch for a while there.
Yeah, we'll say that. Not that no one wants us. We're just giving ourselves a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that no one has invited us. It's that we're tired.
Yeah, we're just needing a break, folks.
That's why. Yeah. You know, it's not them. You know, it's not us. It's not us. It's them. Yeah, like we got dumped and we're trying to freaking, make it okay.
Apparently we were just too nice.
Yeah, that's the problem. Man, you're too nice. That's the problem. It got really dark here, and I just realized.
Yeah, it did. Wow.
I look like I'm in one of those. So Scott and I are recording, and I'm sitting in my dining room area, and it totally looks like a haunted like webcam movie where
I was gonna say we're like an unfriended right now.
Yeah, it's like Scott and I are the two people left alive. That would never happen.
Shit.
Scott and I would have been killed off long ago. We would not be the heroes. We can guarantee that much. I don't know, maybe
screwed.
we would be in like a horror comedy, maybe like one of those parody movies, maybe like.
I could totally see that. Like you and I.
But you wouldn't like it because it'd be funny, and you don't like funny things. So.
Well, when you're in it, you don't know what's funny because it's just your life.
So it's like why I laugh at your life, and you don't realize why I think it's so funny.
Exactly.
All right, folks. On that note, thank you for all your kind words and your positive feedback. We truly do appreciate it. We're continuing to grow and develop and all those kind of good jazz. And you will see what we have for you next time in our next episode. Until then, unpleasant dreams.
See ya.